a user of Cynthium that had recently passed away, and going to visit his wife when she reached out to me about all of his robots. He had reached out to right before he had passed away, reached out to his sister back in England and asked her to go up into the attic and recover a bunch of magazines from his childhood and send them his way. And while she gave me the robots, and that was great, and one day we'll go through them, I think this was probably the best thing, because these magazines are from 1984. And these are super awesome. So earlier I called them robot porn. It truly is, for me, amazing. We're able to look at how far we've come and how far robots have come and how far our software has come compared to what some of the things and ideas that are in here. I think there's going to be a lot of ideas in here that might be similar to what we're trying to do today, but might have been lacking the hardware, might have been lacking the software, might have been lacking processing speed, storage, all that kind of stuff. So let's go through, because I think this is going to be fun. And then later I can start working on some code. But right now, I'd like to go through these. And I actually have had these in my car now for a week. And I kept them in my car because I knew if I brought them into my house, I would open these magazines up and start going through them. So I wanted to share this moment with you guys, because I know Carl didn't have a chance really to go through them very much when he received them, because he had passed away shortly after. So this will be a pretty big deal, I think, for all of us to be able to see what robots were like in 1984. So we'll go through this one later. This is just a paper one, and I'm not sure what this one is. This is a robotics supplement to PE and EE for November 1984. Small robots and their big brothers. So on the cover here you can see, it's an ASCE robot that's built in for cars. And yeah, so let's go through this one later. Let's go through the good stuff here. The Hero 1 is still cool. The Hero 1 is amazing. I would love to get my hands on a Hero 1, but I know all the real famous collectors out there, real popular collectors in robotics, would not want me to get one, because I would rip it apart and put an Atomic Pi or a Rock Pi X in there and run Cynthium on it. So I wouldn't leave it the way it. And I think that's good. I think that whenever I buy all these robots, like you see around the office here in Nolan Lab, all these, especially these old toys and stuff that I turn into robots, I think people there's certain people out there who want to cherish its original origin, how it started, because of nostalgia. But I do what I do because I take nostalgia to the next level and I make it do the thing that our imagination made it do. When I was a kid and I had an Omnibot robot, which I have a number of them here around the office, they do amazing stuff now. But when I was a kid, they did amazing stuff in my imagination. But in real life, they didn't do amazing stuff. So that is one of the reasons why I've taken the number of robots I've taken and hacked them up. So anyway, I know I'm talking a lot, because let's dive into the nitty-gritties here. So this is a really neat cover, digitized cover. It's kind of got it's 1984, so this is misunderstood now, I think. AIDS for the disabled. I know what they're trying to say, but in 1984, probably meant something different than it does now. I think they've made a South Park episode about something similar to that. So, British education. I think this is neat. And we're going to get into an article, I guess, in there about education with robotics, and that's, of course, STEM. I think STEM's interesting. I like the idea, the concept of STEM, but I also at the same time find STEM is a little bit lazy of a way to teach, in a sense, because you're combining, rather than having like English and math and everything is separate, you're trying to combine them all together. And I think it's hard for children. It would have been hard for me to learn all of them. Right? I think STEM should be maybe taught later on and not super young, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that. So it'll be interesting to see where they are with education conversations. I think that's going to be fun. And since we're talking about education again, I am wearing my Sesame Street sweater, my hoodie. So we're right inside the education zone here. Well, this is neat. A word processor for the BBC Micro. And check it out. It came on a ROM chip. So you had an actual ROM chip versus and it looks like a cassette too. So the cassette probably ran the program. I wonder if the ROM chip would have most likely had a dictionary for spell checking or something on it. Something that would have helped. Or maybe it contained extra RAM, but it does say 32K. So there was a 32K version of the BBC Micro. All right, so we have a bunch of articles here. Education robotics. Seymour Papert. The man who created Logo. Oh, that's neat. I used to play with Logo a lot when I had my Apple II. And I have recently been restoring and hacking a Coleco Atom. Here, let me make this window a little smaller. There we go. You don't need to see that. There, even better. There, I've been hacking a Coleco Atom, and of course it has Logo on it, and I've been having a lot of fun with Logo. ARM. I bet you that's not a processor. Even though ARM did come out around this time, because you got to remember this is the BBC Micro. BBC Micro did create the RISC instruction set for that ARM later on became ARM, right? Secondary courses talks about his school's robotics course. Okay, that'll be neat. Maybe it's a secondary, so it might be a high school level. Vision systems, 1984 vision systems. This is going to be interesting. Oh, the big track.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Oh, the big track. And we're going to come across another robot in one of these. Okay, I did open up the magazine, like I told you, when she first gave it to me, and I don't know what page I landed on, but I did see a robot in one of these pages that I actually have at home. There it is, this one. This is one of my. Did you ever play with this one with me, Jerry? I think we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy and I played with this at my house. When we were closing down the old office and moved into this office, Jeremy and I were working off my back deck at my house. We had a beautiful spring, and we pulled this out. Actually, we went into my basement, and we took all of my old robots, and we're putting batteries in them and playing with them. So this one's neat. George. I didn't know his name was George. George can be programmed. So on the top of this robot were all these buttons. I'll bring this in one day. I'll have to remember. I'll get Jeremy to remind me. There's a light sensor or a distance sensor in the front. I can't remember which one it is. It says it incorporates a light beam and sounder. Yeah, I think it's just a light beam, and you can detect movement with it, I think. But on the top are all these buttons. There's a button that makes it go forward, left, right, reverse, etc. And then there's enter keys, delete keys. So it's kind of like a number pad for your computer. And what you can do is you can program up to a number of different commands, and he'll execute those. And he has time intervals as well. Yeah, I do recall you can do something, make him wait a period of time. I don't think it was an RTC. I don't think there was like an actual way to set a clock, but yeah, we'll have to play with that one day for sure.
You see the company name?
What's the company name?
Couldn't get away with that anymore.
What's the company name for it?
Computer Games Limited.
Computer Games Limited. Yeah, that's quite generic. Eh? It covers everything. We should just rename Synthium to robots. Robot software. Okay, back to the magazine. Gosh, I'm all over the place. I hope you guys are sharing my excitement, and hope that it's not not giving you too much anxiety because you're just like, turn the page already, DJ. Here we go. Make.
No more hero. It's a different ad of the same thing.
Okay, this is neat. Look at the marketing around it. It's make your personal friend. Build it yourself. That is Big Junior, your personal friend. Because these came as kits, right? You had to build it yourself. Oh yeah, you can see it right here. Let's dive down into here. I'm gonna have to scan all of these pages and put them on the website as a PDF.
Oh wow!
You liking those prices?
Yeah, those prices are steep.
You think so? For that?
Nowadays.
I don't know if those are steep prices for nowadays. You're looking at what, $1,000 assembled, or $600 to build it yourself. So that's pounds. So that'd be $1,200. I mean, okay, I was gonna say something like, for example, that's about a price of your average a lot of robots, not easy robots, but like Misty. Misty's $1,000, but they're also in receivership. So I guess that goes to say that maybe pricing is a big issue. Now Hero Junior, and then the only difference was what? Different chassis. Oh, they're pretty different, eh? But he had an arm. So you're spending an extra $200 on the building. Oh, it's $600, $700. Wow. And then a training course, $1,400. Early Hero voice synthesizers were wild. Yes, I forget the chip that they used, but if you ever had a Mockingbird sound card, and I think if any of you remember last year around this time, I did a live hack where Jeremy and I were listening to 8-bit music on my Apple II, and I built the Mockingbird sound card that day. I bought it, all the parts for it, and I built my own. And the sound chip was the only chip I didn't have on that Mockingbird, but it's the same one that was used for the Hero. Ooh, this is big. Look at this. How's that for a quote? Looking at industrial robotics, one is struck not by their newness, originality, but by their combinations of existing ideas. It's a cryptic way of saying that robotics is an intersection of multiple technologies and disciplines. Okay? Because you think about it, so a computer, sure, it's hardware, but it's very limited hardware in the sense that a robot has a computer as well. So, I mean, sure, you can have a computer on your desk and you can have software and you can say it's an entire industry. But to be a robot, this thing needs to have legs, it needs to have arms, it needs to actually be able to move. So robotics really is, a combination of existing ideas. That's great. Neat way to say it. The intersection of technologies. Or as I would like to say, human's ultimate goal. Because, once we build robots that can do what humans can do, there really isn't any point to currency now, is there? So that opens up a lot of freedom for creativity.
More science, more exploring.
More science. The only thing is that robots are going to be having the fun. They're going to be traveling to different planets. Humans will never be.
We'll explore our own, I guess. Go to the depths of the ocean.
Yeah, we can go to depths of the ocean. We can do that. Virtual reality is, I guess, will be the next thing. It won't be virtual, though, right? When you're using a robot and you're looking through it through telepresence. We got to come up with a better name than telepresence, because
it's like POV presence.
POV presence. There'll be, what'll happen? There's 2 heroes in Calgary. That's what you said, Jer? Yeah. Oh, that's right. And I told them I wanted to buy it 1,000,000 times, and nobody will sell them to me.
I wanted to buy one for your birthday.
Oh, if you told them it was for my birthday, they would never have sold it. Oh, the Calgary Robotics Group. I don't know, for some reason they didn't get along with me very much. Let's see here. So looking at industrial robots, a simple statement is an important one. It could mean that acceptance of robots in a school. Can you read that, Jared? Do I have to make it?
Yeah, a little bit clearer.
Yeah, because I'm going to read a little bit out loud, so I want you guys to be able to read as well.
That's pretty good.
I'm just having some difficulty with my...
It needs to be a robot arm.
Yeah, I need to... You know what? That's funny. I don't know why I don't... I've thought about it many times, having a robot arm to hold the cameras. I think that would be great. Okay, as long as I keep it around there, we should be able to read it. Yeah? Okay. And then we can make some progress here and whip through some of these pages. What is more worrying for parents who are still being caught in the middle of the dispute which is raging about comprehensive education is that robotics will lead to a different way of teaching children. So I think we still have that same argument. Right? So not a lot has changed. So this could say one of two things. It can say that we were too early to the game in education and we were trying to get robots taught in the classroom, but the world wasn't ready and therefore we were crying wolf in 1984. Or And then, or we were crying wolf in 1984 and we're still crying wolf today. Or maybe today we need to actually reflect back upon these and take it as fuel that we should be teaching more STEM. One of those two things, right? I mean, we obviously don't want to see robots fail in the world, especially with an industry. But I mean, unless all these robot companies start working together, and people stop promoting Ross so much, right? Robots aren't going to move at all. It says, the doubters should read Alex Whittaker's article. Based on formal system of comprehensive secondary school, some of the ideas, such as cooperating with industry, are very new. That's neat. So they didn't have the word STEM then. All right, now where we are. Ooh, this is neat. How to survive the office of the future. Now, it's a little disappointing that the office of the future only has a bunch of computers on it, and that's it. But they do look like Xerox PARCs, don't they? I mean, they do with those the box down here. I don't see I can't tell if she's holding a mouse in her hand in that picture. But the Xerox PARC had that. Well, I mean, a lot of computers had boxes like that back then, but. Intelligent robots, no bigger than a shoebox, can fetch and carry videotapes for the university students. Mail mobiles shuffle around the office. That's neat. So you would have gotten some sort of little flyer, I guess, for £4. Paperback, £4. I would like to have seen this. I wonder if I can get hold of something like that. An image plotter. Oh, it's just a software. You can use it with your Micro B computer, your BBC Model B. Oh, here's Jeremy's. There you go, Jer. Enthusiast Center opens. The first shop to deal solely with robots has opened in London. Oh, that's neat. They have 6 BBC Micros and many of the pages seen in the Practical Robotics magazine. Homebrew designs. If you built a robot, you'll be welcomed. You can show up, Jer. Bring your robots. This is neat. Software suite is launched by Cyber. So they release a sophisticated suite of software for a robot arm. You can enter Cartesian coordinates, X, Y, and Z. Wow. That's pretty wild. Can you read it very well?
A little bit.
I'll have to get Jeremy to give me feedback on reading, guys. If you can't see it. £200 for the software to be able to type in an XYZ coordinate to move a robot arm around. That's awesome. I want to charge £200 to make up 20 lines of code that does that. That'd be great. I mean, this was brilliant then. I mean, it's still something that Ross can't do. So I mean, that's cool.
They're still selling these small robot arms and things.
They are. I mean, this is one of robotics is one of the biggest industry is selling a robot arm right now. Right? They put it on that Trojan Robotics robot that they released last week, announced. It's too bad about the glare. I'm trying to get rid of that glare.
What is that? Is that a turtle?
It is. So this is a physical robot turtle. So if you're using logo, and look at the right below that is this new logo created. So a new version of logo, concurrent logo, was created at the Department of Artificial Intelligence at the university. It can use up to 8 processors at the same time with built-in commands for driving motors and reading sensors. Ideal for robotics. So it was a distributed logo, concurrent logo. So they got the name concurrent logo because multitasking was a word, but it wasn't used a lot. Gary Kildall, who started Intergalactic Software, which eventually became Digital Research Institute, DRI, right? Institution? Was it DRI? They're the ones who had created concurrent DOS, and prior to that they created CP/M. But the word concurrent in computers for running multiple programs at once was a real big term in the 1980s. I know this because I watch a lot of this TV show from the 80s called Computer Chronicles. Gary Kildall hosts it, and every now and then he does a demo of concurrent DOS and CP/M. Ooh, Big Beastie. What's this all about? Something called a Beastie interface. Again, it's an ARM. Everything's ARM related, eh? So you have either an actual turtle that drives around the ground, or you have robot arms, building blocks. A modular home robot kit to be launched in February, costing less than £4,000. Jesus. All right. Phone up all the robot companies. Tell them to increase their prices. We're charging too little. It's remotely controlled using an ultrasonic link, which plugs into a standard RS-232 computer. An ultrasonic link. So it's using high frequency sound to transmit commands.
Do you remember when they used to have ultrasonic remotes for TVs?
I do remember ultrasonic remotes for TVs, and they made that click noise. Yeah. Click. I think it's where the word clicker came from, right?
Yeah, I guess. I never thought of that. No way.
The RB5X mentioned. Did you see it? Oh, yeah, you see it right here. Let's read it. The RB5 was, we just discovered the RB5 actually, this last year, watching, there's a, if you guys ever find it on YouTube, it was called, what was it called? Something Cade.
Oh, yeah.
It was a game show called Starcade. It was a game show where the kids played video games, like actual arcades. And one of the giveaways was an RB5X, which is really funny. I can't believe I didn't hear about it before. Its arm, again, talking about arms, it'll be able to lift 5 pounds and place it with human-like speed to an accuracy of 1 millimeter. Wow. It'll be an IBM-based computer inside of it. So an Intel, this is 1984, so it would be an Intel 8086 or something. Holy crap, listen to this. With the aid of low-res cameras attached to the arm, will be capable of object recognition. What? In 1984? We have 2 working prototypes. They're trying to design a robot capable of doing useful work. Something none of the current range of personal robots can do. People are fed up with what little more than executive toys. Oh my gosh, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. This should be a wake-up call for the whole industry. Everyone. We should be watching this and reading this articles right now. Come on. This is crazy. You're involved with education. You're involved with high-tech technology, computers and robots. That would have been a fun conference to go to. Again. Oh, another robot arm. Look at this setup here, Jer. Get your little computer, your robot arm. All these boxes, some buttons.
Arm droid.
So many arms.
That's where they got Android from, I guess.
Arm droid. Here you go. Recruitment. Somebody is hiring in London Docklands. Ooh. Someone who can teach robots. The salary is £9,000 PA. It's PA per annual. So for would that be a good salary in 1984?
It's like 18 grand, about.
In 1984? I don't know.
Cool.
I mean, you hear like my mom be like, "When I was a kid, you could buy a house for a penny."
Chocolate bars,
No.
5 cents.
Yeah.
Go to the movies for 10 cents.
This is neat. I'm excited to scan this so you guys will be able to read more of it because I think you're going to probably want to absorb some of the things that were being said back then because it doesn't seem like a lot has changed now. I found capital letters. Wow. With reference, capital letters.
Phil Manchester.
Artificial intelligence they're talking about here.
The letters section.
Yeah, people can write in. This is neat. A little diagram that this guy made using a touch switch and micro switches. So a touch switch, I guess you're saying capacitive?
Well, I don't think they had capacitive touch back then.
No? You think it would just been really like, yeah, sure, it would just been a transistor with
Yeah, with a floating base.
floating base and you just touch it?
Maybe. Never heard of that.
I remember when I was a kid, I never actually looked at what he had done, but my dad broke his leg skiing and he replaced all the light switches. I told the story on here before, on the hack before, but the light switch in the kitchen, the dining room, and upstairs, he replaced them with bottle caps or beer caps. And he touched the beer cap and the light would turn on. He touched it again, the light would turn off.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it might have just been a floating base on the transistor, and then, it would just switch itself on. So it would be just two states.
That's awesome. It's very weird for me to look at this magazine that's completely dedicated to robotics. And I'm just used to seeing old electronics magazines, right?
Yeah, I had no idea this existed.
Like maybe one little robot at the end or something, right? And this is like every page is robots.
Oh my gosh, look at this.
Holy.
Okay, I'm not gonna go over this because it's more fucking robot arms. So we're gonna go over something that's a little bit here.
Servo controller of some sort there.
Yeah, another robot arm, the Beastie. I saw mentioned this earlier. The Beastie system. These look like, these are servos. It's an interface that directly connects to the BBC Micro, enables the computer to accurately control up to 4 servo motors. Wow. You could probably do that inside of BASIC. Well, that's Cynthia Mark right there. And that's an EZB. Camera. The EV1 is an electronic. Didn't Lego have something called the EV1?
EV3.
EV3? What did it stand for? EV. Elephant's vagina?
Electronic vehicle?
EV1 is an electronic camera that links to your computer using its own optical sensor. The camera quickly captures high quality. This is neat. So this is an actual digital camera in 1984. That's unreal.
How many pixels? Oh, there it is. 256.
256 by 128, up to 15 frames per second. But it's not frames per second, it's p per second.
It's per second, probably. Like P.
Yeah.
Per.
So frame rate. I think, it comes with comprehensive software. I mean, it would be nice to get hold of this kind of stuff. Ooh, the mobile base. This is neat. Can climb 45 gradients. Wow. Carry up to 25 pounds. You could carry a small child on that thing. 2-gear motors. Control it again from your BBC computer.
They have the right idea.
Yeah.
Years of robots.
This is like Easy Robot and Cynthium and everything that I've been involved into prior to me knowing anything about it, and obviously being a child.
I was 2 years old.
Yeah. The visions of a seeable system. Oh my gosh, this is going to be great. Computer vision. Wow. So it's called Vidicon vacuum tube technology TV cameras are giving away to solid state line of array cameras as typical image transduction devices. The latter are less bulky and more robust and less prone to geometric distortion. Wow. You can smell this magazine. It's got this, smells like my great grandfather's basement. When he passed away, I wish I took the time to go through, because he probably had tons of these type of magazines. You know, like Popular Mechanics and everything, Popular Electronics, I mean. Oh, look at here we go. Spatial intensity. So the image array, so that would be your CCD, using the vision system, is typically 32 by 32 to 512 by 512. That would be high resolution. That would be considered like more than HD. Okay, let's take a look at how we're supposed to write robots with vision systems here. So, okay, I guess we start at number 1. We start here and we go up, the arrows. So we grab the image from the TV camera, segmentation, perimeter extraction, component recognition, scene interpretation, robot trajectory planning. Oh my gosh, they are getting ahead of themselves, aren't they? And then they send the data from the robot trajectory planning, so they do some motion planning, and then they send it to the manipulator control, so the RMC instead of the EZB. Maybe that's what we should start calling it, the robotic manipulator controller. And then there's your stupid robot arm. Okay, so this is interesting. The camera is stationary. And there's an option inside of ARC's camera device for a stationary camera. And I put that in because there was a couple different robot projects I worked on where it made a lot of sense to have the camera looking down at the environment. And if you think about navigation, the IPS, which is the indoor positioning system that I created, that has that same philosophy behind it, is that as long as the camera is not moving and it's staying in a stationary position and the robot is moving, it can see everything it needs to be able to manipulate in its environment.
Going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, this is wonderful. Object description. Pattern recognition. Samples is called clustering or unsupervised pattern recognition. So let's take a look at what they have here. Scene analysis. So looks like we start here at the image analysis at the bottom, and we take the binary data, gray tone and color. Interesting. So we have these. I don't understand what they're trying to say here. Generally, in a lot of pattern recognition, especially in object detection, everything is done in monotone, so just black and white. It's a lot easier to do it that way than with colors. So model matching is up here. So combined tone and color ranging. Then Huh. Cool. Promising results, Jer. Wow, you guys are going to have so much fun reading this when I scan it. Okay, we got to move quicker because we're going to be here all night. Okay, here we go. So gray tone. That's nice because this would have been a good time for them probably to start recognizing that color recognition for object detection is not the best way to go about it. So an excellent example of model-based vision operating on gray tone image was developed by General Motors. Oh, 2 modes of operation are involved in training mode, industrial parts. That's neat. I didn't know they had that back in 1984. The system uses information from a 256 by 256 images with 32 gray levels. 3 phases. So I guess this is the 3. Oh, look at this. You have a keyboard, the robot manipulator, image processors. Wow. Ideal line drives. Okay. Oh my gosh. Now what are we into here? Reasonable results, but uses are limited. A growing number of vision systems are being introduced. So this was called the microsite. Oh, this is Culvis and microsite. So this isn't microsite. Oh, there's microsite over here. And this is Culvis. Look how small their little CCD was. Oh, look on the back of this thing. It's a big ribbon cable, eh? I bet you that was a parallel transmission. RS-232 would have been too much. You wouldn't have had the speed out of that. A Z80 CPU. Stripping pixels. That's not bad. Look at the list price to experiment with. So the camera connects to a dedicated image processor. So inside of this was an image processor. Is that what it's telling us? I think so, yeah, because it's saying 16. The keypad is 16 keys, 0 to 9 cursor keys. So you would connect this to your computer, I guess, at home? Oh, did you read this, Jer?
No.
Right here. The camera, how the camera works. Huh. That's interesting. I don't know how CCDs work now, but I guess it's pretty wild. There's a image from the camera. That's what we must be looking at on the cover here. The same picture, it looks like. 64 microseconds. A 256 by 256 image takes 4 seconds to process. Wow. So there's a little section on the camera control in ARC, right, where we talk about why resolution isn't as important for cameras as it is for filming your children's birthday party. And think about the problem back then with processing, right? You're only dealing with a 256 by 256 image. And it's taking 4.19 seconds to process. So times 64, that must mean because there's 64 levels of grace to go. Is that what it is? Must be. Oh. Oh, you have to wait for the DRAM chip to do its thing. Ooh, look at this.
Color. Oh, wait.
Access a world of information on your spectrum. Look at that specky. He's using that specky down there. There it is. Nostalgic nerd would love this.
That's a massive monitor from back then, too.
Oh, yeah, and that's an expensive monitor. That's a Sony Trinitron. That's a monitor that you would have in a studio. Like, that's not a monitor you'd have on your house.
Yeah, Son and Dad are going to be using that thing.
That's, I bet you the back of that has like tons of connectors. That's a serious one. So what are they promoting here? They're promoting some sort of online service. Access to a world of information.
Is this the internet?
This is before the internet. This is like before CompuServe. Look at the things you can do. You can use the supermarket. You can buy a software supermarket. Oh, look, you can buy software for your Apple, your Pet, your TRS-80. Oh, man. Education, swapping. So if you're into that sort of thing with your relationship. Games. I don't know what game that is. It's
It looks kind of like Hubert a little bit.
yeah. It's a cross between a few different ideas. Latest news. Competitions. Are you ready for this? StarNet. If you're looking at this through a mirror, is a computer moderated space travel trade a war one-up galaxy game? What? I don't know what that's all about. This is very UK, very English. Some guy playing, what's that game where they use that ball and they run around and say English words? Crickets. Yeah. They're playing cricket and horse, so what's it called? Caress? Would they jump?
Polo? Oh,
No.
I don't know what you mean.
Well, it could be polo. And then soccer, and which is called football there, right? And then, I don't know. This one looks like sumo wrestling.
I think it's part of the cricket. That's a cricket pitcher.
Oh, it's a cricket pitcher. Travel. Oh, mail. Can you imagine getting your mail on this? Ooh.
Theater guides? Wow.
Look at-
This is like pre-internet.
Look how long the command is to create an email message. Compose and send your own message. They have to educate their customers so much that the function is the explanation of what it is. And then it's like greeting cards. People understand greeting cards, but they couldn't get the first one. The first one, they went through so much customer feedback that they had to turn the option into like an entire sentence. Look at this one. Standard messages. IG, thank you. So if you just wanted to like say a thank you to someone else's message, you just hit a number 3 and you're done. People get it. 1 year subscription to Micronet worth £32. Crazy. Oh, stepper motors.
Okay.
Stepping proves popular. The direction of the current. Look at that. Stepper motors. And then looks like a stepper motor controller.
But it looks like it's a buffer, actually.
Yeah. Looks like we had a fix inside of the Doctor Who pinball.
Yeah. Close. Still have a couple of those chips at home. Bat on the 8 track.
As interest grows in the ping pong contest. So check it out. So you see these all the time in the last couple of years, right? Robots that are playing ping pong. It started in 1984.
No way.
Yeah. So you think about it now, right? So the first time I think I saw one of those ping pong robots would have been what, 2016, 2015? They started to become kind of a thing.
All these ideas we think are these brand new ideas.
Well, they started working on it in 1984, and now we're just starting to see, in the last decade, we're starting to see these things happen. Listen to this. The main difference is a probability that the two interacting servo systems will start to indulge in disco dancing. I guess they're talking about you have to actually have some sort of level of probability to predict what direction the ball is moving. So you're trying to figure out trajectory.
You think that's like a vision system in the middle?
Yeah, I think this would be some sort of vision system, I would imagine. So we can keep track of where the ball is. You have to read more about it. Whoa, look at this guy. There's a stud, 1984 stud. He had all the women's while he was doing all the maths.
He's the same guy as on the cover?
Is it the same? No.
Same picture?
Is it the same guy? Is it? Hold on, let's find out.
I think it is.
Where's our vision system here? I think we're one more page over. Nope. One more. Right here. No, it's not the same guy. No. They just all look the same.
You sure? Because it said something about
Seymour
Seymour
Papert. He's probably like nowadays, like, I don't know. I don't follow enough history and everything, so maybe he's like one of the most famous people in robotics. And I'm looking like a fool right now, not knowing who he is. But he invented Turtle logo. So I guess he was a pretty big deal in robotics, really, when you think about it. I mean, logo wasn't originally created for robots, I don't think. I always thought it was just made for learning how to program code, but having an actual physical robot, which I've seen on Computer Chronicles. Enjoy turtles.
passed away in 2016.
Oh, he died and no one knew.
He's a mathematician and computer scientist and educator. Most of his career was spent at MIT.
Watch this space for Reiki robots. An inexpensive future is in store. Jer, see if it exists. See what happened to Reiki robots. This is an interesting little ad, eh? I mean, they did an ad without doing an ad.
They did.
Well, yeah, it's like, watch out. Watch this space. It's like, because you didn't have access to internet, so you didn't have, you had to be creative. Okay, now we're getting into some cool robots here. Look at this. A line tracer. Now we're talking. All the Arduino guys are going to love this. Draw a line and the infrared sensor will chase it around. Woo! Monkey. A command into the condenser microphone activates the gripper arms. So you just yell into it and it'll close and open its arms. Circular. It's got a handheld remote, which you can issue instructions to. Ooh, this one's got lots of chips on it. I like this one already. The Memocon crawler, it's hard to say. The highly intelligent Movit is programmed through its own keyboard. Its impressive memory accepts a broad range of commands. Oh yeah. Piper. Ultrasonic sound activates the microphone, and it scurries wherever you want to go. So it's just a single microphone in the front, so it doesn't have anything directional. But that's okay though, because it's only the beginning. The making is only the beginning?
It's another Prism ad. There was a Prism ad before where I had a whole bunch of stuff with
So Prism must be selling like a lot of this stuff, eh? Prism House. Prism Consumer Products. Is Prism still around, Jer? Jer's doing all my Googling right now to find out.
robots I can't find at all.
Reiki Robots didn't have a trail. Oh, there he is. He was already pretty old in 1984, but people looked older back then. I think it was the smoking. Smoking was a form of exercise.
Papert was a pioneer of artificial intelligence.
Wow. How do robots contribute to education? Oh, that's really well said, right? Programming the robot to do something helps a child think about doing. I mean, it sounds super simple, but it's the best way to learn. You learn by doing. The trouble is, while you have this philosophy, I think that's great, nobody was able to standardize an interface which allowed a child or anyone to interface with hardware without having to undergo a bunch of other obstacles. Meaning that in order to make the robot do something, you have to have learned 30 other disciplines, right? You have to understand electronics and circuits and programming and microcontrollers and communication protocols, like all this kind of stuff. And even if you made Logo, and you made Logo make a robot drive around, it doesn't have a practical application. Right? So I think this is just really good validation towards what we're doing at Cynthium, because we've solved that problem, haven't we? Oh, here we go. If schools will not be there in 20 or 50 years, how do you see your child learning? So he said that schools aren't going to be around? Where did he say this? We'll have to read this later, but let's see what he says here. Schools as we know them will not be there. It'll be a process of social invention? I hate to see where children stay at home or put in cubicles. Welcome to COVID-19, my friend.
He's a prophet.
Yeah, he says he'd hate for that to happen, but I mean, we're here not because we wanted to. But it's interesting. I don't know what he means by social invention. I find that interesting, but let's see what he says. He hopes society will develop a way to give children an exciting social environment where they can interact and grow and learn. Yeah, that's kind of like pasturing, like a pasture for cows and cattle, right? The problem that kids are having is because they're not given enough guidance at a young age. It's it's a lazy way to say that child should just learn on their own. I mean, the whole point like if someone comes into my business and they say, what do you do here? I don't say, well, why don't you just bump around and figure it out? I tell them, I teach them, right? I explain to them. If any job is like that, right? You just can't give a child a pasture and say, go play in this field and here's a bunch of stuff. Here's some tools and here's some paintbrushes and here's some scalpels and here's some, right, bulldozers, and then you figure it out. They're not going to learn that way. So I don't totally understand that or agree with what he's saying. I think he's
Wisdom can be imparted on people.
Well, the whole point to evolution is a physical thing, but in whether you're religious or not, it can be considered a mental thing or society thing, right? Is that you're all constantly evolving in knowledge. You're always taking, the granddad builds an axe out of wood and a rock, and then he gives it to the kid, and the kid uses the axe to make a better axe. Right? And the only reason why the granddad didn't make a better axe is because he was too busy trying to feed himself. So he didn't, got to a point where he was comfortable and he didn't have the thrive and the passion to make a better axe. The younger generation has more luxury because the parents are feeding them, right? That's why there's this like point of childhood in their late teens and early 20s and mid 20s, that 12 to 15 year period where your society has allowed you to make a lot of mistakes. You're okay to bounce off a few walls until you're 25, 26. But now, if you're 25, if you're 28 years old and you're bouncing off walls still, you're a delinquent. Right? I still don't like this logo programming. I still don't like it. Not one bit. So the trouble with logo, and I had this huge trouble, is I first learned how to program in BASIC, like everybody, but I learned how to program in BASIC only because my dad kept giving me all these BASIC books. But everything he was writing code in was in C and on the Apple II. And I was more interested in C than BASIC, because in C, I could write stuff and it would be faster, and it felt like it was the same amount of learning curve for me. I mean, I think once you learn a language, it's harder to learn another language, because you have a bunch of ideas of what the next thing should be. And when you go from BASIC to something else, it's hard. It's hard to go from BASIC to C. And I think it's doubly as hard to go from something like logo like this to any other language in the world, because it has a very unique approach. And even this repeat, square, FD, right turn, whatever, this is tough to understand because it's procedural. Sure, you're saying repeat the thing that's in these brackets here 18 times, but it's not something you can take the process and apply it to a different language, or not the process, the result or the concept. But when it comes to the actual application, there's very little you can carry over. This is a common example for all programming, right? Write down your shopping list. A shopping list I don't think is as relevant as a recipe, but got to give these guys some credit. Oh, here's an interesting command. But last is the opposite of but first. But first. That sounds like Jeremy's night tomorrow night at the bachelor party.
That's bad.
What's this all about? Doing your butt when knows God. Don't do your butt, Jer. Don't do your butt.
No God. God knows
Oh, gosh darn it. Another fucking robot arm. Oh, I'm glad I'm not in robotics in the 80s.
We saw that earlier, actually, one of the Freeman ads, I think.
Oh, it's a popular arm.
Yeah, this arm.
Jesus, Murphy.
Wow.
Oh, it's got a 6502 processor, 6K of EEPROM, which holds its program, and 8K of battery backed up RAM. That seems like a lot for its day.
So what you're telling me is this computer is, I assume this robot is a computer. It was basically the same as the computers in that day, aren't they?
Well, you got to remember, 1984 was a weird time because Apple really pushed with the Macintosh, right? It really pushed what a computer could be. Mm-hmm. But yes, what Jeremy is saying is right, is that computers in the time of 1984, Commodore 64s had 64K of RAM. The Commodore 128 was just coming out, and people didn't really care about it because it had 128K, and what would you need that much for? The BBC Micro would have had 32 or 64K. People were still buying Speckies, which, I think they didn't have any RAM at all. I don't think they just used RAM from your neighbor's computer. So anyway, yeah, you're right. There was a really big mixture of different computers out there. The interesting thing about 1984, when did the PC, the IBM PC came out around this time too, right? But the first PC was nothing like the computer we know of now. It took a couple of years later for us to get what we have now. Like the thing that Compaq was most successful making a clone of. The prior computers to the original PC, Intel based IBM, yeah, they were nothing like what we have now in 1984. Oh, here we go. So they're talking about, they're talking about how to teach robotics based upon different curriculums in the classroom, and all the different. Well, here we go. I mentioned something about Canada. We've marketed successfully an education robot vehicle package to Canada. It includes ready-built robot, 15 pieces of friendly robot software. Jared, do you remember ever getting taught any robots in school? Like, I don't think I ever saw a robot in school. Ever. Like, not even like a logo robot. I must have. Well, I was from Thunder Bay, so. You use the word robot and everyone called you a nerd and they beat you up. You reading this? Similar UHF links exist, so you may send pulse width modulation to drive servos over RF. So pretty much a remote control car. And here we go. That looks like a BBC Micro right there. That definitely is. That's an Acorn. Or look at this stuff. Those are great robots. Hero 1 was in high school's program. You learned with a Hero 1? You lucky guy. Who's E. Meister? Roborad, you are a lucky guy. I have still yet to really even touch a Hero, like with my hands. Although nobody would let me near their Heroes because I would just grope them. Look at these guys. Those are pretty cool home-built robots, eh? Yeah. Fiber Optics Educator. A new product for teaching the older and newer technologies. Wow. Here we go. Examples include showing the properties of light and infrared radiation, transmission of high-quality analog speech and music, the digital data, including Morse code. Okay, that's neat. So they talk about analog for speech and music, but when it gets to digital, it's just Morse code. So that's why they say new and old. It's like, yeah, that's pretty funny.
I never thought about that. Do you think in the future we'll have all of our sensors will be connected by fiber optic in robots?
So Jared just asked if robots will have fiber optic connections. I think HP, I don't know if they have a patent on it or what, but a number of years ago, HP announced a server infrastructure that used fiber optics to connect all of the peripherals together. Because that's really the next step, right, is to have every device connected to fiber optics. Because what's neat about it is you can actually have a hard drive in a different city, if that's the case. You can have hard drives anywhere you want. Well, I mean, they have to be connected by a fiber link, but you could run that fiber link a very far distance, right? So they don't, or they can be you can have a computer lab, and you can have all the server or the hard drives in the basement, and you can have it all through fiber linked. But
we need wireless fiber, man.
No, the trouble with it, I think the reason why I didn't go is the processing hardware to get from the device to be encoded and then sent over a light signal and then back again. I think there was a lot lost in that. I mean, you're already doing it with networking, right?
It's all
There's no clock, and that's a difficult thing too because you're synchronized. Well, I guess your clock is synchronized inside of one of the light, different light spectrums, right? So different frequency of light, you filter that through. But
you're limited to the way you can encode and decode and everything with your processing, right?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about all the limitations that people that they experience, but I think there's a reason for it. So check this out. This is neat. Nolan Bushnell. So the reason why he's here, and there's no picture here, and there's no conversation about his company, is there? But Nolan Bushnell, after Atari, and I thought it would be the mid 80s, but it might have been later, he started a robot company. I can't remember what it was called.
Right there, Androbot,
Where do you see it?
right beside his name.
Oh yeah, Androbot. Yeah, they just had those two wheels, right, on an angle,
Yeah,
and a caster in the back.
the Sopo.
It looked like Sopo. Yeah, one of our users had a product made with that. That's right. One of at the days of Easy Robot. Oh, look at it is. Aww.
That's awesome.
So here now we're talking, right? Like, think about this. How much was this? Does it say? I remember reading in Consumers Distributing. In the here we go. Whoa, this isn't right. He estimates that a hybrid robot would be built to sell for $5,000 in quantities, and that 80% of the elderly could afford one at that price. What are you trying to get at here, buddy? Home help, and they show this thing.
That's a stretch.
It is a stretch because I mean, it's the company who makes it is called Tommy Toys. So or Tomy? Is it Tomy?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I remember watching a video. I can't remember who did it. It was, I don't know, Nostalgic Nerd or one of those guys, 8-Bit guy or somebody. And somebody wrote in and complained about how he said it. Interesting. Waiters for orders to grow. The personal robotics industry in the U.S. is still waiting for the rapid market growth. And we still are. Fast forward to 2021. Wow, that's 19 years later than 1982. And we're talking about the beginning of 1983. Not all is good. And Androbot has scaled down operations drastically. They grossly underestimated the amount of work which had to be done before the dream of a personal robot can become reality. Oh, RB Robot filed for so this is the RB5X, filed for protection under Chapter 11. How much longer they can continue? Heath seems to be the only one still functioning. That's quite interesting because I don't know what the purpose of Heath was. I mean, RB5 had a lot more ability than, because it had an arm. Well, the Heath had an arm too, but it wasn't nearly as good as the RB5. The RB5 had a camera on it, which we just found out. And Androbot or whatever it was called. Sorry, Nolan, but it didn't. You guys, your robot sucked. It didn't have arms. It was like a Misty. It was just two wheels and a computer.
And a tray, right?
And a tray, yeah.
Well, what's that about science fiction movies over there?
Over here?
Yeah, this is getting into what we were talking about.
Where do you see that? Two possible solutions, a combination of both called manufacturers must provide, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah. So is tired of hearing and people must be educated to stop expecting the magic they see in science fiction movies. Okay, this is wrong. You shouldn't be telling consumers to lower your expectations.
Oh.
Right? I don't say this. I would never say this. Somebody comes in and says, "Oh, I want a robot that can, I watched this movie like Wall-E. I want a kind of robot." I'm like, "Good. Keep dreaming big."
That's what Arkham Power is able to do, is build those robots.
You know what? Next time someone asks a question on the forum how to do something, and you're like, "Hey, don't dream so big. Don't worry about it, guys.
You need to
Don't
cut those expectations
just
way back.
just go use ROS or something. You don't need a robot."
If you go back to the Omnibot thing for a quick second, there was something interesting about that.
Oh, Jeremy wants me to go look at the Omnibot. What do we see here?
Well, it talked about robots being on TV and like in commercials and stuff like that. And I thought that was interesting. TV advertising, right?
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
You don't even do that nowadays. Nobody.
The introduction of three-bot robots. That's true. You don't see robots in advertising.
Robots were on TV like crazy in the 80s. Now,
That's right.
where are they?
Well, you see them, but they're always cartoon-based now. Robots. Look at these arms.
That looks like the Armatron kind of.
Oh yeah, it does.
First one.
This one looks like it's ready to give you a hand job. Ogre. I'm going home to Ogre, boys. Can't decide between a robot arm or a buggy. What? A buggy?
Yeah, the buggy.
Like a robot with wheels?
Yeah.
Oh, why not both? This is funny. Suitable for BBC, Commodore, etc. What? So the BBC Micro runs an entirely different processor, entirely different basic operating system. No, none of the peripherals are compatible. And then what do you mean etc. to Commodore? Like what is etc.? Okay. If the pattern, I mean, it's hard. You can't really just go into Excel and type in a number 1 and a number 2 and expect it to know a pattern. You at least have to give it 3, right? So the pattern of this is incompatibilities. So etc. must mean that list other computers are incompatible. So I can put Blender in here, like a home blender. Maybe an old car tire could be listed in here. Or one of Jeremy's kids listed in here. Just random incompatible stuff. You failed at your marketing, Ogre. No wonder why nobody wants to come home to that sexy pose. Imprecise logic can boost micro. Oh, look at that. I'd like to let x equal 2. And then let's print it. Oh, print x equals 2. We'll print 0 as the result is false. This will, imprecise logic can boost micro users. One of the basic ideas of logic is something is either true or false. Wow. I'm surprised that there's oh, this is quite interesting because they're talking about how to achieve AI in microcontrollers, but they're talking about logic. Ah. Here we go. Big track conversion.
Yay!
Oh, look at this. So this is a Z8 control card. Do you think it's a Z80 CPU on here? Z8. What's a Z8 versus a Z80? Jared, any ideas?
By 10.
It's 10 times less.
Yeah.
RAM. EEPROM. What is this board? What would it have done? It's got look at that. It's got a 2 megahertz crystal on it.
Zilog Z8.
A Z8. So what's a Z8 versus a Z80? I didn't know there was such a thing as a Z8.
1979.
A Z8 671. A Z8 671 is a single chip microcomputer. So it's a microcontroller.
It's got AD.
Oh, look at that. Yeah. It's got 8 I/O ports, 2 counters.
They had I2C back then? Holy crap.
It said I2C?
Yeah.
No way. It even had asynchronous serial communication. Wow. So is there a UART on here or is it? No, I don't see that. I see an S. No. How about over here? So this, yeah, it must have had its own UART on there. Well, the Z80 had a UART on it too, though. So basic debug is a subset of Dartmouth Basic. And executes assembly language programs located in memory. Are they going to show the big track? They don't even show a picture of the big track. Oh, man. Hey, look at this one, Jer. Look what it's called.
Arc.
The Arc 42, complete.
That's funny that it's 42 as well.
Yeah, I know, 42. The answer to life, the universe, and everything. It stands for what does it say? Something control system. A control system? Acorn? Acorn control system. ARC. Wow. Maybe that's what Cynthium ARC means. You guys just didn't know.
There's that chip again. ULN 2003. It's everywhere.
Oh, it's everywhere you want to be. I don't even know if I'm going to be doing any coding tonight. This is way too cool.
We're just...
Yeah. Well, I think we're going a little faster than we were when we started, but this is for me, this is fascinating, yeah. Oh, look at this. Big track. So jump to start. Enable keyboard subroutines. Configure port assignment. Okay, so you're configuring your microcontroller with your code. And this is how it's wired up to stuff. Ooh, look at the commands you got. Run, return, stop, print. So it had a basic interpreter on it.
Yeah, it says basic architecture, the modified Harvard architecture. It's technically very different from the Xylog Z80.
Okay. So it didn't have compatible architecture to the Z80. Well, this is neat. I really like the fact that it had 2 timers on it, though. That's pretty wild.
Oh, it was a competitor to the Motorola 6800. The 68HC11, which was the first microcontroller that I used.
Ooh. Whatever happened to Motorola?
They got purchased.
By whom?
Fairchild?
Fairchild. Really? Fairchild's still around too?
No, they got purchased.
I was going to say, yeah. What do we got here? This is neat. I think this is really neat that that what we're seeing here at the end of the magazine versus the beginning is all the technical stuff. And I don't know if any of you ever read a magazine called Owl. Owl magazine, Jeremy remembers it. In the back of the magazine there'd be computer code you can type in.
Oh, no way.
You never knew that, eh? Yeah, that's the only reason why I brought Owl magazine home, was to type in the computer code. Now we're getting to some pretty complicated stuff here. We can spin through some of this a little quicker because... Oh. This is interesting. This guy's having problems building a robot. And he says, there's more to building it than I first thought. The major problem being that I'm a computer software man first and a very poor engineer second. See, that is a problem, I think, but it's a rare problem today. According to this article from The Guardian, the Russians have warehouses full of robots that they cannot use because of worker resistance. That could mean that Russians have the biggest robot population in the world. It's just that they're never used. There's a lot wrong with this grass is greener. The Russians have time machines, right? I mean, sure, they were the first kind of to space, but that was like how many people died doing it that we don't even know of. It's they're not known for doing things with a lot of finesse, we'll say. So I don't think they had world's largest robot population in warehouses that weren't being used. Everyone always thinks like the underdog has some sort of magical thing, right? Like everyone thinks that, Nicholas Tesla had invented transmission of electricity. If only he was given more time, he would have broken the laws of physics, and the world would have been different. The future would have been different as we know it. I have a wireless charger inside of my car, and on the 7-hour drive from Kelowna to Calgary, my battery didn't get above like 88% while I was listening to music, streaming over Wi-Fi to the stereo. Yeah, you can't charge and transmit electricity very well. Come on, world. Ooh, here's some basic code. Yeah, now we're talking. Look at all these let loops and for loops. Oh, yeah. So it looks like this guy has tried to create essentially logo, because I can see here the commands. So data is like creating constants that you can read from. So it looks like you'd be able to type in these commands and it would be able to execute them. Body drive, body turn, arm down. Ooh, start menu. Welcome to Windows 95 in 1983. Ooh, check out this stud, David Buckley.
Hey, I recognize that name. Where is it from?
David Buckley? I don't know. Type in some Googles. Maybe you turn.
I was looking up the Motorola thing. It was Freescale was the company that they kind of turned into.
Oh, Freescale. That's right.
And then Freescale got purchased by NXP.
Oh.
15. Maybe I'm thinking of Leah Buckley.
Okay, so this is an article here about creating a telescoping unit. And for those who want to know about Jeremy's first Hackaday, I think, feature, wasn't it your deodorant? Jeremy made a homemade DIY linear actuator with a deodorant container, I guess you'd call it.
I made it on TV with it.
Yeah, he was on TV because of it.
With Planet U.
Jer, looks like this guy beat you to it, except he's not using deodorant actuators. He's using pieces of wood. Nice. He even has a wood bearing. So what would a wood bearing be? Just a piece of wood with a hole in it? What is a wood bearing?
Look at this website of David Buckley.
Oh, Jeremy found out David Buckley website. So David Buckley's still around?
I guess. I don't know. Look at all these old robots.
Find David Buckley. Tell him we're talking about him right now. Let's see. What's he talking about? David Buckley. In problem line, considers a number of difficulties his readers are finding with various projects.
Robot designer, David Buckley.
Oh, here's a big one.
Yeah, that's him. That's for sure.
This is interesting that they had to talk about this, because this micro switch on the input port of your microcontroller, if you didn't have it held high in this case, it would be floating and it would be constantly switching. This was probably a real big deal in 1983 to understand. Right? It doesn't matter if you put a photo transistor here. It doesn't matter if there's an infrared receiver. It doesn't matter if there's anything here that you can't just have a floating I/O port. Whoa! It's like canine, but real.
Laser eyes.
Laser eye dog. Amazing. It is a robot's life. A Japanese researcher. See, Japanese are interesting. They've never been really that much more advanced in robotics than us. It's just that their culture somehow embraces robotics and most all technology into its society. Like it embraces it. It merges with it. It becomes part of it. It's really intriguing the way they embrace technology. But they don't really have great technology. I mean, I'm a huge fan of watching all these technology videos, like people who travel to Japan and get all these old game consoles and robot parts and stereos like Tecmo, all this kind of stuff. And I mean, they come up with some pretty high quality things relative to what they expect in China, or in Japan. But I think that when they make something and when it says made in USA, people expect it to be pretty much carved out of lead. Like it's heavy, it'll never break. It uses all the current. It gets hot. It's got a fan in it that sounds like it's going to eat your children. Jeremy likes the sound of fans.
There's a sound of a fan bothering me right now.
Where? From my laptop?
Yeah. I can hear it. Yeah, it's from over there somewhere.
Yeah, it's coming from my laptop. Jeremy doesn't like sound of fans at all. He's as bad as, what's his name? Johnny Ives. Johnny Ives hates the sound of fans.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why Macs don't have... They hide the fans in weird places. And then prior to that, I think it was Steve Jobs who didn't want a fan inside of the Apple II. So it was a digital switching power supply that was the size of the computer. Because in itself, it was the heatsink. And the funny thing about the Apple II is all the chips were reseatable. So the computer would get so hot and so cold that after turning the computer on about 4 or 5 times, my Apple II, we would have to reseat every single chip. Once a week, it was like a thing I'd have to do.
They pop out, right?
Yeah, they slowly pop out. I want to know more about this moving jobs thing. Reason to hate robots. Oh, you got to get this to Dennis. This is a Dennis article.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, just say, hey, buddy, here you go, 1983. If robots cost $30,000, 2% of the 80 million blue-collar workers in the United States could be replaced. That's a real blanket statement. A $30,000 robot that does what? Any job that any blue-collar worker can do? I don't know. You can't, I mean, no, you can't do that. In the glass industry, one machine takes the place of 600 skilled glass blowers. I get that. There's certain, I mean, it's like the quilting machines, right, of the 1800s and 1700s. Those are programmable, considered robots in a sense, replace a lot of people's jobs. But I think what we've demonstrated in the last 30 or last 40 years is that we haven't been able to create robots that really replace anything more now. Hey, Jer.
Oh no.
The naked computer. It's from that robot arm.
I think most computers are naked. You ever see them with clothes on?
What? You don't put clothes on your computer? That's what software is.
That was like a dad joke, man. Nice work.
Hey. They keep talking about Big Track, but we still don't get any. We don't get to see them.
I thought it was funny with under the robot dog, it has miles per hour.
It talked about how fast the robot dog can move. Another robot arm!
But in miles per hour, isn't this like a...
It's British.
Yeah.
British is miles per hour.
Is it?
Britain is so weird.
Oh.
Everything's in like kilometers when you talk about distance.
Yeah, metric.
And gas is in liters, I still believe. But they do their speed by miles. So it's like what? Is it like How many liters do you get per mile? Yeah, it's a strange mixture.
Look at that. The Open University robots.
I am tired of seeing robot arms. Okay, now we're getting into some real robots. This one is not as technical. Holy, build a stereo vision system.
Oh, what?
Look at some of these robots. Like, look at this thing. It's got like a full-fledged PC on it almost.
Back then, stereo vision. That's the turtle we saw in the other one. It's the same one.
Which one? Down here?
The turtle in the upper right.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is the turtle. That's Paperts.
Yeah.
Papert. What was his name? Mr. Papert. Check out the RS-232 connection on the top. Oh, that's bigger. That's a DB9. Ooh, check out that geared. Oh, dip switches. Yeah.
Seymour papers.
Seymour.
Look, and they had like that extrusion. They made their robot out of extruded aluminum.
Is that what it was? Extruded aluminum? Oh yeah, it was.
I didn't know they had that back then. Holy.
Huh. We have an extruded aluminum robot right over here.
I thought that was a new thing. Who knew?
All right, let's see what's in here. The key to success. Yes, now we're talking. The Stone Chip Spectrum keyboard. The user has no worry of damaging the Spectrum itself. So this is a specky computer, but inside of another box with a real keyboard.
Did they like white label Spectrum computers?
I don't think so. No, I think this. Well, it says here that no modifications to the Spectrum are necessary as it connects via the rear port. So this plugs into the exposed port of the specky. But it gave you a real keyboard so that you can program without having to want to commit suicide.
Mechanical keys.
Yeah, mechanical. Well,
Instead of that weird rubbery thing.
it was it was the first one. Yeah, it was a membrane, right? They were membrane with rubber. Yeah, it was the worst. All right.
Big track again.
Big track, man.
Let me see it.
Maybe we will. Okay, we got the plotter ad. We had this as well. But looks like Heath in this article. So this one is in July, August. The other one was November, December. So I'm getting from this that November, December. Well, they must have had a budget that they needed to. They must have gotten good performance from this article, because this is an earlier magazine than the last one we're looking at, and they only had a half-page ad, where that other magazine they had a 2-page ad. They were selling the Junior and this. Unless the Junior didn't exist yet. No, that would be silly.
Was Maplin Electronics distributor?
Maplin Electronic Supplies, yeah.
Oh, they're still going today.
Oh my God, I want to scan this and put this on the webpage.
Oh, 2018 they stopped.
Read that, Jer. Owning a robot should be fun.
Yes, it's true.
Instead of feeling guilty about spending a relatively large sum on toys, we should accept that is what we want to do. I love it. I love this article already. Okay, now I'm excited. Okay, the first International Personal Robot Conference. Probably the last, too, because I haven't heard of another since. The owners of a 200-pound computer justify the expense by saying that they're about to learn programming. Unlike the personal computer market, however, there seems to be moves towards realism in the personal robot field. Forget trying to do anything serious with them, says Nolan Bushnell, who created a company that sells robots. Jesus. I mean, kudos for being like an upfront, honest man. Good for you, Nolan Bushnell. But what a really bad business decision to say, hey, come buy my car, but don't have any expectations of it working or doing anything.
You can have fun with it, but don't expect to drive anywhere with it.
And if you think fun is actually being frustrated by not getting it to do something, it is possible, because although games played is the most popular use of computers, there is always the possibility that given the time, owners could write their own programs and become experts. So yes, really let me translate this. Yes, computers are used mostly for playing games. Yes, robots are used mostly for toys. But given the time, owners could write their own programs. It should be more like owners could write their own programs and become entrepreneurs, not experts. And I think that's what was missing in here, because nobody really, in 1984, really put a lot of value on software. And you see that today with Apple still, right? All these companies, Microsoft, Intel, all these companies have gone through many, many pivots in order to stay alive from their origin in the late 70s or early 80s. But then Apple didn't really go through pivots of their business model. They went through pivots of their products. And what I mean by that is Apple still has this mentality of software where they give it away for free with the hardware. And I know you're paying for it. It's embedded in the price of the hardware. But it's interesting that their perspective on hardware is much different than, or software, than everyone else's. And back in 1983, people never thought that you can own a company making software and make lots of money. Like it's unheard of. I mean, software is zeros and ones. It's not real. Why would someone pay money for zeros and ones on a magnetic tape or magnetic disc? So it was interesting. That was a perspective back then.
Yeah, it's the Topo. That's what it was called.
Topo was the Nolan Bushnell robot. Yeah. So they halted all of their sales. Wow, the way they make it sound is as if like they were selling so many and they had to stop. But Fred and Bob were the name of the robots. Problems in financing production to the desired level being experienced by the U.S. company, which was set up by Nolan Bushnell. There are negotiations between Androbot and its UK distributor, Prism. There's Prism again.
Oh, wow.
You said they went into business in 2018?
No, that was Macklin.
Macklin, oh.
Macklin. Prism Consumer Electronics, that's what it's called.
So Topo was being imported into Britain by Prism, a sister company of ECC Publications, which publishes this magazine. Huh. I wonder something. It says here that there's a new language that was being created by a company called LJ Electronics. I wonder if that's the same LJ that, oh no, LJN, right? That was a different company that made video games or wrote games in Nintendo. Oh, Commodore Robots celebrated the selling of its 2,000th robot last month. Of those, 60% were for export, with UK sales being prominently to higher education and industrial training establishments. I never heard of this company before. Colon. They will be eliminating the Zeekr turtle from its range. We do not feel Zeekr would fit our new image. Oh, there's David Buckley. They have a new company called Intergalactic Robots. That's funny, because that's like the same name that Gary Kildall had for his company, right? Intergalactic research.
Oh yeah, there it is. Zeeker on David Buckley's page. And he has the code for it.
Oh man, Jeremy found David Buckley's page, and there's the web page or the code for the Zeeker robot.
I lied. It's a pinout. It's not code.
Oh, okay. It's the pinout for the Zeeker robot. You can buy the Pika robot still?
No, you can't get it.
Uh-oh.
Manual. Cool.
Remember the robot arm that you can go home with?
The ogre, yeah.
Its problems have been overcome.
Oh no. The Zeeker had a 556 in it.
Really?
Pretty good.
Zeeker had a 556 timer. Was it 556 two timers in it?
Yeah.
It was a two 555s. I wonder why they never called it a 10-10-10 or something.
Yeah, that was the main chip for the Zeeker. Was the double timer.
I'm trying to understand this here. One of the this Creative Software Award. So it's an award for the finalists of the Creative Software category of the recent British Microcomputing Awards was Atari logo. Oh, Atari logo, as in not the logo of the Atari. Every time I read it, I kept reading logo as if it was like the logo of Atari, but it's the. It was written by Cynthia. Google her. Where's she at? Cynthia Solomon.
Yes, I've seen her name a few times now.
Yeah. Most people have used Atari logo, rated as one of the best implementations available. It's multiple turtles, which can be redefinable shapes and animated. Ooh, I have an Atari 600 at home. Oh, look at that, Atari 600. I have Atari 600 at home. I'm gonna have to load up some Atari logo.
She's still alive. She was a computer scientist known for her work in artificial intelligence.
Wow.
Worked for MIT.
So Cynthia created logo and worked at MIT and made artificial intelligence.
She was probably
She would have been a
worked with
pioneer.
Seymour.
She worked with Seymour Papert?
Papert.
Papert?
I don't know.
Here we back our computer vision. Okay, get this. The Beastie arm for the BBC announced in its previous issue has been released by Commotion, costing £40 only for the mechanical parts, or £130 for the complete kit. £40 to build it yourself is not such a bad price. But then if a salary for a year was £9,000, I guess that's kind of like a week's worth of money right there. Additional servos. Oh, look at that. A standard Fubada servo. Fubada. Yeah. Fubada. That's neat that Futaba servos existed back in 1983.
Or maybe there was a company called Fubada.
Well, Jeremy's going to check if a company called Fubada ever existed. And Futaba was maybe the spin-off that... Yeah, so Fubada was never a thing. Interesting. So the robot arm in this picture is lifting up the camera. I feel like that was a really difficult photo op opportunity. Like they couldn't really understand what they were going to do with the camera and the robot arm, so they just made the robot arm lift up the camera. It's kind of silly. Futaba started as a vacuum tube company? No, I didn't know that. I guess all those companies would have, eh?
Yeah. Then they got into VFDs.
Gosh, look at all the A's on this. Ugh! Armor charm. Arm. Attracts. Attention.
The Armatron. Yay. Or what? No, it was the Robotron that I'm thinking of.
Conversion of toy arm is difficult.
called the Arbitron.
It was, eh?
Yeah. I thought it was called the Robotron. Remember that one?
Oh, yes. Atari, or Tandy.
Yeah, and the
Radio Shack. You know, Tandy, the Radio Shack computer company, was originally a leather belt company. They made a leather belt and eventually leather briefcases, and then they made so many leather briefcases for computers that they thought they should get into their own making laptops or something like that. I watched a video on it. I don't know who did it.
Did you know there's a Tandy Leather in Calgary?
Yeah, it's like off McLeod Trail, right? The Tandy Leather in Calgary. I wonder if it's still the same company.
I wonder too.
Oh,
They have computers.
congratulations on a great magazine. Why not publish every month? I'm attending Slow College and I'm studying computer technology. Well, Mr. Colin Holman, you should know that it costs too much money to do it every month. That's why you take higher education in computer technology and not business. Think in the next 6 to 10 years will be a turning. Look up Colin Holman from Kippingham. What's he doing? Let's find out what this guy. Let's see. He's taking computer technology. Let's see what Colin Holman ended up doing with his life.
All right, Colin Holman.
Kippingham.
Chippenham?
Kippingham.
One guy looks like he's an independent consultant.
Oh, yeah? Because you got LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Jeremy
Started
Found.
in the United Kingdom, so that's right.
That'd be him. Colin Kippingham. You should.
With over 50 years in the paint and surface coating.
No, it doesn't sound like him. Because 50 years, because he's taken, he would have been, this is 1983, he was in school. So that would have been, what, 40 years ago?
Could have been. Oh, yeah, he's in school, you're right. Okay.
And 30-something years ago. And anyway, I think it's interesting because he says, in the next 10 years will be a turning point in the home and work in robotics. And therefore, we'd like to have work experience, software, hardware, interfaces, and robotics. Could I have a list of robotic firms? My project is to convert a Hebot from ubiquity to remote control to power supply to information whatsoever. Be gratefully appreciated.
was overdue.
Robots in Japan that can walk. Cheap kits have great potential. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, the line tracer. The Piper mouse. Let's read about these guys.
I think we may have seen some of these at the Computer History Museum.
We definitely could have seen these at the Computers Museum. The robot section was pretty bleak.
Well, they did have a few. Line Tracer 2.
It's hard to change these pages. I just need to try to find the click to the next page. All right, here we go. Let's read a little bit about this Piper mouse. What do you do, Piper mouse? It's $20. It's got a condenser microphone and picks up loud sounds. In this case, a whistle. Okay, so if it hears a sound, it'll go left. Here's a sound, it goes stop. Here's a sound, it starts moving right. Here's a sound, it stops. Here's a sound, it starts going forward. Here's a sound, it stops, and then it repeats.
Do you think we could make a whistle robot? Whistle-activated robot? With frequency?
Yeah, you could probably use a frequency detector. I think something that can allow you to filter frequencies versus detect frequencies. It's easier to filter on a frequency than it is to detect frequencies. Because if you detect a frequency, if you ever look at like a frequency detector, there's in the whistle and anything, you'll see frequencies all over the place because it's not perfect. So especially if it's oscillating. So it's generally easier in robotics to filter out what you want. His brother, RoboRad says his brother had a Timex Sinclair PC that was similar to the ZX Spectrum. Yeah, it was. That's actually really, yeah, that's good knowledge, RoboRad. The Sinclair and the Spectrum were identical. Identical. Except for the frequency, the clock frequency, because the Sinclair was a NTSC and the Spectrum was PAL. So I think the programs would run at different speeds. They run a little bit faster on the PAL than they would on the North American version.
3 laws of robotics.
Here we go.
Can't get away from that.
The honeybee has about 100,000 neurons or circuits, yet can navigate, track, smell, produce, and communicate with fellow. Is that a fact? Is that a fact? Is that something that we knew, we've disproven? Is there more than 100,000 neurons now in a honeybee? Jerry, you got the Google.
All RoboRad said all he could do is make clock images plotted. LOL.
So I don't think it's a fair comparison to talk about the neurons in a bee versus a robot because...
Oh, you're right, it did change.
Yeah, how many neurons? So Jeremy Googled it. How many neurons are in a honeybee?
960,000.
960,000. Okay. That's a lot. But the thing is, it's not just the neuron. It's the infrastructure that allows the neurons to be able to work together and to be able to translate into some sort of information or some sort of code, right? When you think about a computer, you have a chip that can store on or offs. A neuron is not just on or offs, right? You know this is it's related. It's data that's being in relation to each other, and it's a little different in a brain because we don't know how it entirely works. But we try to simulate it with computers and math and AI with a neuron is. So you can't just say that, right? Because you have like an entire infrastructure that has to connect all this data together, and that's where our fault lies in AI. That's why the performance is less than what you'd expect inside of a honeybee. Oh, what's this all about?
Yeah, I read about that.
Is it true?
Yeah, there's been a number of cases.
37 people were killed? Oh no, Kendra 37 was killed.
One person, 37 years old.
By a robot while attempting to repair malfunctioning circuits. The robot, a self-propelled guided cart, apparently crushed Urita as he probed a circuit which set the thing back in motion. You have to be careful when you tickle these beasts. Wow, see, this person is very creative. I mean, he obviously shorted out an H-bridge or something, or a bit that, some sort of bit that set it off to start driving. But that doesn't mean that he tickled it and it's a beast. It doesn't have a mind of its own. I don't think what happened here aligns with any of these three things here. That's like saying my light switch electrocuted me because I put my tongue on the terminals. It has nothing to do with these three items here. The difference is if your light switch, while you were asleep, climbed out of the wall and then tried to strangle you. Or flick its little flicker at you until you died. Oh, what's this all about? The reported infraction of Asmos rule. A robot at the American Motors Toledo Jeep plant went nuts. Ha! Pardon the pun. It went bolts and nuts in November. Instead of spot welding a piece of sheet metal under a tailgate, the robot grabbed the car and would not let go. Even one employee hit it with a plank.
It's a
Oh, I just can't. I want to see this guy have an argument with his computer. Who wrote this article? You got to find this guy. Who wrote this? He doesn't have his name on it. He's so embarrassed. Is that him there? Is that him? And John Grant's? I don't know. But jeez, you guys. Wow, the assembly line had to be shut down and the robot plug pulled to rescue the car. You mean they couldn't just negotiate with the robot with simple dialogue? What do you want, robot? You want some fresh oil? You want me to go buy a monster power supply so you get some that clean filtered current? Oh, that raw voltage coming out of the, like a peasant just getting power from the outlet like a peasant. You want that monster capacitive filters. Okay. A graduate student working in a laboratory had time, commented, we had a hardware failure. Okay, what's going on here? A $50,000 experimental arm, 5 feet long. Well, that's your first problem. What are you doing? Building a 5 foot long arm without a power button to turn it off. Went berserk. I can't even hold the camera straight. I'm laughing too hard. I can just picture this robot just like, tongue hanging out and flinging its arms around. Its eyes are looking in different directions. It was grabbing wildly and smashing at things until it grabbed its own support stand and tore itself in half. Oh my gosh, this is great. I love these people's imagination. More imaginative and technically sophisticated than Chuck E. Cheese and his gang. Gasohol? Is that how you spell gasohol? What is gasohol?
It's like alcohol, but with
Gasohol?
Do they mean gasoline?
I don't know if Roborad, if the three laws of robotics or 3 laws are thrown out the window. I think that we still need to abide. Yeah. Okay, let me rephrase. Robots today aren't autonomous enough to comprehend the illusion of reality or anything to apply these 3 things. So you would there's no AI, right? So you would have to, let's say the human, don't hurt humans. You'd have to teach the robot what a human is through some sort of object recognition training system, which means it would have a percent certainty of whether or not it was a human, right? Which means you're going to have false positives, so it's going to not do something because it thinks it's a human, or it's not going to know it's a human. So you are in itself creating an algorithm that is dependent on technologies that haven't been evolved enough as a rule. Let me rephrase that in a different example. It's like airplanes. You get on an airplane knowing that it's gonna fly, but the captain is unsure of how the plane even works. And if it can even fly, but you're confident it can fly. So you buy the robot thinking it's not going to hurt you, but meanwhile, the guy who really created the thing and made it happen has no idea if he's confident in it, because it doesn't always work. So it's weird. It's a weird analogy, but we're not just there. We can't negotiate. Like the whole point to this whole article here is, and what we found is funny that we were laughing so hard at, is robots don't have this personality. They're not like going berserk or drinking gasohol
Tearing itself apart.
or tearing itself apart. It's just breaking and not being programmed right.
He was right at the beginning when he said it was a hardware failure.
Yes.
That's all he needed to say.
Hardware failure.
Okay, gasohol is a mix of gasoline with 10%
Oh, so gasohol is what we have to get at the pump these days.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's interesting. I'm going to start calling whenever I go to Husky or Mohawk, which has a high percentage of ethanol, right? I'll start calling it gasohol. Okay, check this out. John Lambert. Isn't that name familiar? There must be a lot of John Lamberts in this world, but isn't there a John Lambert that was doing something with like Robot Basic or something?
Whoops. Not from 15 something.
Yeah, that name might just be too familiar, and I'm not...
No, that's way too young.
That's an interesting article.
I forgot the power supply.
Let her drain. We're almost done.
We got 6%.
Holy, Jer.
Whoa, beastie, again. The servo thing.
Read it again. You really? What is going on here in this article? I don't understand.
They're gonna have to delete that from history.
This has to be. This is
They're gonna have to pull a Disney on this one.
yeah. I was just trying to think of Aunt Jemima.
Yeah.
This is an Aunt Jemima thing.
Dr. Seuss sort of thing. Eh?
Dr. Seuss?
Yeah.
Why? What did Dr. Seuss have about racism?
Well, they had racial stereotypes in a lot of the books.
Dr. Seuss had racial stereotypes?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd
They're deleting those books.
have to see examples of that because I would like to think that people went too far by imagining that was the case, but because I grew up with Dr. Seuss and I'm not racist.
You like Swiss Family?
I have a color TV.
You like Swiss Family Robinson?
That was a joke. From when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Swiss Family Robinson? Yeah, I heard about Swiss Family Robinson is getting a big issue on Disney
Yeah,
about
I
it.
watched it on Disney Plus and it has a huge disclaimer at the beginning.
Yeah, someone was telling me that the other day, saying there was like dogs fighting tigers in the dog, and it was like they really put a tiger in a dog,
Yeah.
like to fight and stuff.
I just watched it.
Okay, so let's stop looking at robot arms here. Oh, who's this? Who's this guy? Look at this sexy pose. Is he posing on a keyboard?
He is.
It is. So on his screen right now is just like a whole bunch of letter P's. In the second of his diary entries, Phil Manchester sets down the qualities of his robot. I would like to know the qualities of your robot. Trying to work out code for the Spectrum without infernal machine to hand its... Intelligent behavior. This is amazing to think of the same problems that people are having then are the same problems that people are having now. Huh.
And it's like full stack development.
This is all full stack development. This is all ROS. This is what everyone thinks you have to do is start from ground zero every time.
Reinventing the wheel every single
Reinvent. You want to move a servo? Oh, that's cool. I know that a billion other people have moved servos, but I'm just going to write my own servo code just so I can say that I did, even though nobody cares. Temperature check. There's, of course, a major omission from the loop as it stands. Remember that our thermostat had to check the temperature. At present, we have no mechanism in the loop to analyze the data. Is this like a... Is it talking about like a PID? Look, listen, feel, move, speak. Well, that's interesting. There's his program right there. Did you ever see that guy on Homebrew Robotics in the Facebook group that would write like a line of code and say this is the code for life in a robot, and he did all these videos on it and stuff? I shared it once in the forum. It was amazing. That's what this reminds me of. Life is easy. Look, listen, feel, move, speak. Don't you want to speak before you move? Should you be doing all those things at the same time? Control your robot using the faster robot language. Oh, now we're talking. Forth. I used Forth once on my Apple II. I don't remember much about it. Oh. Oh, Prestel. That's what this is promoting, I guess. Oh, I've only read about Prestel. Here we go. The difficulties in devising a robot which can play an adequate game of ping pong. This is an actual real article which has more detail than that last one. We should have gone through this one first because look, they talk about the top of the plane frame, how high the net is, how the ball moves back and forth, different angles of trajectory, and then like how you would actually have the pulley motor set up and how it would move the bat back and forth. So you don't have an up and down, do you? I don't think you do. Like this is going.
From what I saw in another article, it looked like it went like this, like
Yeah.
like a arc.
That's what it must do. Because I was thinking kind of with this drawing here, like this type of diagram, technically what you could do is you could move just one of these and loosen the other, and it would move up and down. You can move it around a little bit. I guess the farther away these are, you can move it around. It would flop. It would be very floppy though. Oh, there we go. Oh, there's your elbow. So your bat, okay, so your motor moves back and forth. This thing moves back and forth, and then you have another one which just moves the bat like this. This, when you first read this, what does it say to you? This title. No, not your rectum. Jerry, you're still your spectrum. What I'm getting at wasn't that. My getting at is that when you see the word links, aren't you thinking about like website links? Right? Getting the best links for your spectrum?
I just breezed past that word.
So what are they actually referring to here? Solder connections.
There's Lambert again. Or David Buckley, whatever his name is.
Yeah, it's David Buckley. He likes that photo. Eh? He kind of looks like somebody from Lord of the Rings. Who's that little midget guy? He looks like him.
He looks like somebody who would read Lord of the Rings.
Hope David Buckley. You think David Buckley will ever see this? Us going through this?
The guy that has the axe.
Yeah.
Gimli?
Yeah, little guy.
Gimli, yeah.
Little dwarf. Inexpensive.
Wait a second. Have you ever like watched or read Lord of the Rings before?
I've seen Lord of the Rings once.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I think I saw both. There's two of them, right? Or three? No one can. There's four?
There's like
The movies, not
there's
just the
like
books.
Hobbit and everything of that.
Oh, wow.
Series, you know, it's pretty,
Yeah, I don't know enough about Lord of the Rings.
I don't even know that much about Lord of the Rings. I just own the books and the movies. Oh, the chess playing robot.
Yeah, let's start with this one here. Okay, you know what's missing? Let's see, it doesn't seem to be here.
Duck.
Yep, the duck, the pooping duck. So I think the very first robot was, I think it was the pooping duck. Let's see if it's, no, it's not. So it was a duck that you can feed it, and it had a bunch of gears, and it would grind up the food and poop it out. And then there was the child, right, that would draw pictures, the automaton. A tea doll carried a bowl on its tray and walked forward with it. When the bowl was removed, the doll stopped. Replacing the bowl causes the doll to turn around and walk in the original position if moved 26 inches in each direction and was only 14 inches high. Again, these stories make it sound like they had some sort of technology which is unheard of today. This robot can do exactly, turn around and everything. Speech for automatons was demonstrated in 1830. It was operated through bellows connecting a series of tubes which ended at a mouth. And there was a tongue with a rubber pallet, and the operator sat in the back of the keyboard and controlled it.
I think I remember that.
It recited the alphabet, so it was like a phonetic engine thing. It's kind of like how the vocoders worked.
They tried to emulate our mouths, right? The way our tongue say the letters and the words.
I'd like to see how that one worked. I know at Epcot, or maybe it wasn't Epcot, maybe it was the one that Disney did in New York, the World's Fair, with Disney and Henry Ford. And there was a robot there that came out. It was a big metal one, and it spoke, and it used a vocoder, and they're able to using a music keyboard, they can maybe like hello, and it would play different notes. Yeah, and it made it talk. It was pretty neat to see.
RoboRad says that the ping pong robot
Was made into the first ever video game called Blip. I've never seen one in years. LED, you push buttons to serve. Jeremy and I just watched a video about that a couple months ago. There's who was the guy who took it apart? What YouTuber was it?
I can only vaguely remember the video.
Okay, so there's a YouTuber, and he gets a couple of those, and it's called the mechanical games, right? It's mechanical handheld games, and that was one of them, and it was a black box. And it had an LED inside of it, and the ball would bounce around. You're right. And you had a paddle on either side. You played Pong against the computer. He took them apart and showed how they worked. But you might have to Google to see who that guy was. I had one of those. My uncle, he had it. My uncle was the youngest of my mother and her sister. He was younger by a lot, and he was really spoiled because at that point my grandparents had more money. So he had like a Commodore 64, he had an Intellivision, he had all the handheld games you can think of, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Simon Says, Merlin, and he also had that black remote, that black ping pong handheld thing. And I used to play with it all the time. And I think he gave it to me, and I might have taken it apart and broke it. Floor crawling boosts learning. Ooh, this is going to be a very interesting article. You guys are going to love this when I scan all this for you. You can read it all.
It's funny. There's something about mind storms in there.
In Mindstorms, Seymour Paper's original book, introducing Logo, I wonder if the word Mindstorms that Lego came up with for Lego Mindstorms was in reference to Seymour Paper it.
It's kind of funny that he introduced Logo, and it's Lego that took
Lego logo, yeah. I think it's interesting that this is a real valid statement today, because when you think about it, when you talk about Logo and these robots that drive around, and you're teaching children how to like go left, turn right, everything, That's exactly what we're doing today, except our robots are just fancier than a salad bowl upside down with a Kleenex box inside. Right? Now we have little humanoids and we have, but again, like, I think if you gave me servos in 1983 and I had a Spectrum or a BBC Micro, I wouldn't be making ARC to what it is today, but I think I would be able to make ARC enough that it can control a robot to walk. I guarantee you I can make a JD on a Spectrum. It kind of makes me feel like I should load up my Apple II and write some code and make a robot walk around with it.
You should get an Apple II emulator. Just do it on the Raspberry Pi.
No, do it on my real Apple II.
It's too big.
No, it'll have an RS-232 cable running to the robot. And yeah, tethered. I could do it. I could put a USB transmitter on the RS-232 in the Apple. Well, that's what I did with the TRS-80 Model 100 that I did.
You should.
I controlled a Wall-E robot with it. Yeah. Idiot proof. Here you go. Let's see. AKA DJ proof. Let's see. They may seem like very minor points, but buyers of the kit will be new to computers and robots, and as such, the instructions should be idiot proof. I don't know if you can say that these days. Huh. So the only real mechanical was a speaker. What's a dill switch?
Dual inline switch. I think it's those. They look like an IC, but they have a little. Oh, it's dip switch.
Those are dip switches.
I don't know.
They must have meant dip. Because it says here this package on the interface board is used to select the address space used by the robot. And when we looked at the picture earlier, well, not this one.
Yeah, I think it's a dip switch.
Yeah. Huh. That's funny. We didn't get to any programming tonight, and I'm okay with that because this is way cooler. Way, way cooler for me. Ooh, route planning. This is interesting.
So probably like go forward for 2 seconds, turn right 2 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, there she is.
You know what? Thinking about it and using that technology, you could have done a robot sort of navigation program if you had the robot draw its own line, so it could follow its own line back to its original position.
So it draws a line as it drives, and then it just turns around and drives back.
Exactly. So you know where you are at all times.
And then it races itself as it drives.
There you go.
It's like a Roomba that cleans up after itself. It's the Hansel and Gretel robot.
Yeah, there you go.
It leaves a trail of breadcrumbs, and then on its way back home, it just eats up the breadcrumbs and then reuses them for the next drive. Oh, there we are. Finally. I had no idea a big track had a dumpster you can hook up to it.
Oh, wow.
And it almost looked like the big track.
Yeah, really. It's like a trailer.
I don't know what it connected to.
The front, I think it's like a fifth wheel, you know, with a big hitch in the back. That's cool.
So that's interesting. So you can buy this toy back then and replace the motherboard with that Z81 or Z8, I guess it was. And with an EEPROM and basic code, like people took this thing very seriously, this big track. I knew somebody who had one when I was a kid.
I remember seeing one myself, but I don't remember where.
Probably you went to some friend's house and they had it, and it never worked because it took all these D-cell batteries. And
I remember because like my friends and I would play GI Joes, and I would
Yeah.
see this thing and like be like, "Hey, is that another GI Joe vehicle?"
Yeah.
Like, no, it's
Don't worry about it. It's stupid. Because it was stupid to them. Yeah, I had a friend who had one, and he never wanted to play with it. And whenever he did, the batteries were always dead. And yeah, I think we used it once. One time I remember sitting on the floor of his kitchen, and we hit like some buttons and made it go forward and turn left and stuff. But
Rad said his cousin had it.
did you do anything with it, RoboRad, when your cousin had it? Make it drive around or write any programs? Oh, this is neat. Using logo to build more complicated structures. So, it's neat that they talk about logo so much because there was a physical robot that connected to it. And you can, I guess logo in its sense was like Cynthium Arc of its day, because you can instantly have a robot doing something. Holy moly, look at this. Look at that dude. What are you doing there, dude? Is he inside the robot or is he on a TV in the robot? I think he's sitting behind it.
He's behind us. I was gonna say.
He looks like he was caught doing something that he shouldn't be doing back
That
there.
mustache is suspect.
It is suspect. It's like, oh, you caught me. You caught me in my workshop working.
You're right though. It looks like a TV screen. It looks like
Yeah.
It's like the Omnibot 2000.
Yeah, the Omnibot with the screen I put in it. E.T. look-alike? The possibilities have been seen. Check out the name of that company.
iRobot. It was back then. Holy.
I don't think so. I think that company and regular iRobot are two different companies.
iRobotics of Boston, Massachusetts.
iRobotics and sells or hires. Whoa, now we're talking.
I never thought of it, but ants actually are line followers.
Ants are line followers. They follow the scents of each other, yeah.
Oh, that's what's this? Simon again, or Seymour?
So this statement, I think, still applies. This entire outside of the languages like BASIC and Logo being used, and if you were to substitute those languages with, I guess, Python or C, right? I think that not much has changed. The struggles that people were experiencing then, when this magazine was released, is the same struggles that people are experiencing today without Cynthium. It's ironic how little has changed. A radio lawnmower from the last page. I missed that. Where did you see the radio lawnmower? I don't know. I think I don't know. Is it talking about something in here? Robot for rent?
Oh yeah, radio control lawnmower at the bottom left. Yep.
wonder what film it was used for. Oh, look at this. Whether you love robots or hate them, Doctor Who has never been the same since K9 was retired and R2-D2-C3PO received as much attention as their human assistants. It's true. That's interesting, eh? Robots are now being used to promote products as diverse mashed potato, video recorders, and stationery. I'm still intrigued with this guy. Peter Holland. He's a surrealist artist.
Yeah, his robots look futuristic for back
I don't know. This guy's kind of weird.
then. That one that has 2 cups for eyes.
10,000 pounds. And takes his machines to parties, shows, and exhibitions. He's appeared in 3 films and been on television. I wonder, I have to find this guy one day. Operator controlled. It was inadvisable to have robots working under pre-programmed instructions. Probably because he doesn't know how to do it. And then there's this guy. This is a serious machine. Is he like coming out of it? Oh, he's in a chair. Looks like he's kind of like, I'm inside of it. I'm going to slide in.
You know what's funny? My boss was named Microcomputers.
This is Jeremy's old boss. He used to work for him. He used to build these robots. With a big range of options.
Commodore taught me the ins and outs of
Soldering? Did you work with him in oil and gas?
Yeah. He was a good mentor.
Moore is going his own way and forth. Okay, is this talking about Gordon Moore? No. Charles Moore. Who is that?
Chuck Moore. Expert programmer.
So he's talking about different programming languages here? That's interesting. He wants to explore search of deep space through using his programming language Forth. He believes the reason intelligent life in the universe has not been detected is not the want of sufficiently sensitive antenna, so much lacks the sufficiency power of programs to analyze and signal. So he's mad that he says that aliens weren't discovered because he didn't. His boss wouldn't allow him to write programs in Forth for the very large array antenna, which is falling apart right now, and it's condemned because after a storm. I haven't read if they decide they're going to fix it or what they're going to do with it, but a bunch of the lines that hold, like the wire that holds it all up, a couple of them let go, and then they were told not to walk on it or touch it, but one guy went out there and tried to, and then it broke a bunch more, and now they say it's going to be more expensive to fix than it is to make a new one or something. Yeah. The only place we find Forth programmers in universities, departments of engineering. Byte magazine was around then, eh? The Bible of the personal computer. Devoted an entire magazine article to, or magazine edition to Forth. Curious. I don't think anybody knows what Forth is, so.
It said something about him being he was not a hype merchant. I've never heard of that before.
A hype merchant? I think there was something I saw about California, right? He didn't capitalize on it, on his fame.
Right.
Yeah, I think he's, I don't know, trying to make it sound like he could have been something bigger than he was. Hey, check it out. It's Bob.
Oh yeah, I guess I was gonna say, or is it Fred? No, it's like Bob.
Yeah. And it's got beer next to him.
Oh, look at that. It's the Topo Bob.
It's called Lower Borough.
Mm.
Attracting attention.
Bushnell.
Oh my gosh, look at this very first sentence. If you have to ask what a robot can do, you would not understand the answer. That was one of the more extreme replies in the question, which was been answered regularly at the first International Personal Robot Congress held in the US. Okay, that's what a scientist tries to say to a layman person who's not a scientist, to make it sound like the scientist is doing, undescribable work and the answer is outside of comprehension of the English language. It's like, there hasn't been a language invented that can explain to you how powerful my robot is. Have you not seen Ogre? The Ogre arm. So this is amazing. So imagine saying this to someone, okay? You don't understand what a robot, if you ask the question, you'll never understand the answer. Okay? And then the guy walks out and then he walks up and there's this thing sitting next to a beer. It's got no arms. It can't pick it up.
It's not even looking at you.
It doesn't even. It's like one of those pepper robots from what's that? Who owns them? SoftBank pepper robots that they use them for marketing, and whenever you walk by them, they're always like facing the wall, or like they're greeting like a plant. Hello, can you and I be friends? The plant is just sitting there looking at them like, I've evolved longer than you.
You need directions to Concourse C.
Yeah, but it's talking to the plant. Oh, it's the worst. Pepper robots are the funniest. Okay, what else are they? What is the answer? What did they say about this? It was from James Lytle, product line manager for Heathkit. Oh my gosh. So you're telling me the guy who product line manager. So you got to remember, the product line manager never invented it. He didn't write any code. What he does is makes sure that, I'm guessing, manufacturing happens, and that he's like a glorified project manager.
It was a kit, so you just make sure the pieces of the kit get in the box.
Yeah, make sure the kit gets in the box. You're right. So I don't think he was really qualified to be making that statement. He said that whenever Hero was demonstrated, people would watch politely and then ask what could be done with it. And Lytle would say, "You're an idiot. If you have to ask that question, you don't belong here. This product's not for you. Go home, peasant." While warning that he was educationally biased, he said they could be used as learning tools, making learning fun, particularly learning about hardware and software. Okay, that really contradicts what this answer up here is, though. Oh, Nolan Bushnell said something about comparing the uses to which robots can be put to use of home computers. He asked whether anyone knew who had put their receipts on computer or use it to balance their bank accounts. In the same way, he did not think there would be many uses for a robot to do cleaning, but there would be people who would want to have the companion as a pet, which could speak to them and as a servant. That was like that whole slave for $49. Fetch a drink while they watching television. Robot, make me fatter. People in the U.S. want things which are fun.
Just playing it down like crazy.
Yeah, well, I guess, you know what, they're more rational, I think, at this time, right? What I'm getting from what you're reading about the articles that people have written and the feedback that people wrote in about movies creating expectations, there's been a lot of dialogue where robot builders and serious robot enthusiasts are having to set the record straight and say, we're not there yet. But I think they're very hurt by the response is because they're letting people down, right? People are watching movies, getting excited about the potential of a robot, then going to talk to Nolan Bushnell and saying, oh my God, I want my own R2-D2. And Nolan Bushnell says, hey, moron, no, robots aren't there yet. And then the people walk away sad and say, oh, robots suck. So I think what we're seeing here in this time, this era, is there's a huge gap between expectation and capability. But what's different about this time versus now is the robot programmers, the people who are making the robots, they're not deceiving anyone. They're not lying. They're saying the robots aren't doing those things. They're good for education. And I think that's great because we're not seeing that today, right? We're seeing companies like Misty and operating systems or the programs like ROS and, Baxter the robot and all those companies that went out of business because they were promoting a feature or a technology which didn't exist. And they were making broken promises. They raised a lot of capital on it. The founders made a lot of money on it. They bought their Ferraris and now they're, doing their own little thing. But they had a bunch of broken promises. And we're not getting the truth like these guys are giving it back in the day. These guys are being truthful.
Yeah, I remember Jibo and they said it could do everything.
Jibo is a really good example of how the videos. I mean, Jibo was designed and promoted by a artist, an animated. Remember that lady? She was like an artist of some sort.
No, she's from MIT. Cynthia or whatever her name is.
I Google her. I'm pretty sure that she came from a creative background and had no technical thing. But Jeremy's got to go look it up to see if I'm right or wrong because I definitely don't want to be wrong on this one. But what I recall from Jibo was it's what happens when somebody who has no idea of technical limitations.
Cynthia Brazel.
Yeah, Cynthia Brazel. What did she do? What was her? Jeremy's going to browse it to find, but I'm pretty sure all the newer stuff is going to talk about her and robotics because she seems like she was probably trying to make up for the fact that.
No, I think she was legit.
I don't think she did robotics as a.
I think she was a professor.
What?
So we're both right.
Okay, Jeremy says we're both right. Okay.
So she worked at MIT, but was a professor of media arts and sciences.
That's right. So she was at MIT, but she was a professor of media arts and sciences. So she had no technical training and nothing about robotics, nothing about software. So there you go, right? Broken promises. But I mean, we should have an RIP page, an RIP page on the website about all the robot companies that have come and gone. And they should reflect back to this date, as 1983, to these magazines, because this is truly interesting. So look at this. It can do what we envision it to do. People in the U.S. want things that are fun. Okay? The only limit to what they could do was what people thought it was possible to do with them. It could do what we envision it to do. What was the Apple computer before VisiCalc was developed? There was something sitting in this room. There was someone sitting in this room who developed the robotic VisiCalc and will make $1 million. We have created a programming environment for the collective intelligence to solve the question of what they can do. This is interesting.
You made that analogy yourself. That's amazing.
Yeah. Saying it was the purpose of the personal robots to be able to do anything useful. If you ask your personal robot to be a servant, it would do something with which you did not want to get involved. Thus, should, in a sense, be a mirror of us. Okay, now it's getting philosophical. He had that robots, if they were degraded into servants, they would lose much of that. If we think of an appliance, we would want it to become invisible. We think of it as a pet, a friend, or a secretary. It's interesting. Yeah, if it's an appliance, we don't want it in our way. We don't want to talk to it. We don't want to have to interact with it. We don't want it to have a personality. We don't want it to tell us jokes, right? Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy makes a ton of references to this statement. The elevators have a personality problem. They're always sad or happy. No, they're joyous, right? The elevators are happy. No. Okay, I back up with everything I just said. The doors are happy. The elevators can see in the future. The reason why the elevators can see in the future was because it helped them predict what floor they needed to be on for the person who was going to push the button next. But a downfall to it is that if you got in the elevator and you're going to a particular floor and it saw in your future that it was going to be a bad outcome, it would try not to bring you there. Yeah, that was adding. But anyway, so this is really what they're saying here is that, Douglas Adams was making a joke on that, is robots should not be appliances if they talk to you, because all the appliances in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, yeah, Roomba is a great appliance because Roomba doesn't have a personality. Roomba doesn't talk. When it does talk, it annoys me, right? Error. Check Roomba's, return Roomba to the charging station and press clean again. Error, 5, 3, 1. It's like, thanks, Roomba.
No personality, nothing.
Yeah. He told the story of a visit to Britain demonstrating Hero, which was being carried in the back seat of his car. As the car went along the roads, Hero was bumping up and down, causing it to be switched on, which brought the comment "ready" each time. He said it seemed as if it was calling his name Freddy. Okay, this guy's out to lunch. Okay, first off, that's how unsafe is that to have this robot in the back seat just flopping around? I mean, okay, yes, when I was a kid, we didn't really have to sit in seatbelts because my parents were too busy smoking cigarettes and drinking and driving to put me in a seatbelt. So, yeah, I get that. But I mean, aren't we supposed to be taking care of robots, or are they going to go berserk? Human relationships we develop with the robot should be a human relationship rather than a machine relationship. That's nice. Very good philosophical perspectives and comments on this. I like it. But again, way ahead of its time. It's like planning the amusement park on the other side of a crossing, like a gorge, before you've even built the bridge. Or planning the first sale of your company and you haven't even made a product yet. They're talking about the philosophies before the thing actually existed. I guess it's easier to imagine than it is to, but that's also why this magazine would have sold. A lot of people would have sat back and thought about these type of things and got excited about it. Yeah, I've just never been one of those people that talks about what isn't. You can't build a reputation on things you're going to do, Henry Ford.
There's one thing, way back when you're on the pages back there, that said there was an International Robot Congress.
Yeah, I saw that. U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did that ever go?
The U.S. The Robot Congress. I don't know. It's gone. I think that. I'm guessing that. Well, here we go. The Congress was attended by leading figures in the world. Personal robots. Look at the machines were sensing obstacles with their ultrasonic and tactile sensors, saying "excuse me," turning away and wandering on. Okay, so they're ping-ponging around like a Roomba. That's what I'm getting from that statement. And tactile sensors, that makes it sound like they were softly touching things. But they were just like a Roomba going, oh, there's something here. Oh. My Roomba on my main level of my home has one of those fluffy stickers on the outside of its bumper, so that when it bumps into something, it's cotton and it's soft, so it doesn't scratch anything. And I came home yesterday and my Roomba was in the middle of the room and it sucked up the sticker. It had the cotton. It had unraveled and fallen off.
It's trying to kill itself.
It was trying to eat itself. It's like swallowing your tongue. Actually, I guess it's like swallowing your mustache. It's like, this meal is so good, but I can't get it down. So you're eating your mustache, buddy. Oh, the best jokes. Here we go. For the next 3 years, The robot which can tell the best jokes will be the one to win. Oh, this is like forehead palm slap. Oh my gosh, really?
Why does it have to be a robot telling jokes? I don't understand. You can have your computer tell you jokes.
For the 4 years after that, which can guard your house will win. Wait, so you go from the funny robot to the robot that scares people off? With the bad jokes.
The worst jokes.
The worst jokes. Okay, so the guy who votes on the best jokes has the worst sense of humor. So therefore, the dad joke robot scares away everybody. A robot which can pick up a cloth and manipulate it to wash a window. It sounds like a lot of extra tactile work unnecessary just to like squeegee a window. I mean, there's a pretty big squeegee business out right now at every gas station, everywhere all over the world, and every business that has window washers. I mean, until windows become some weird, odd-shaped, concave thing where you need to use some sort of like, you can't use a squeegee. I don't see why a robot should ever need to use a cloth, ever. Unless you're trying to make some sort of robot that tries to replace a human. But we all know how funny that's going to be. A number of important aspects of the market were covered at the Congress, including design considerations. I have a feeling that this Congress, I think it just kind of disappointed everybody. I mean, look what happened here. Like, what's this all about? Like, you got this guy here trying to eat his mustache. This guy here trying to eat his mustache. This guy here did. She ate her mustache already. This company.
There it is. The RBF.
That's the RB5. But here's the thing. This article, or this magazine, we said is from July or something, right? Yeah, July, August. The one we just finished reading prior to this was from November, December. So it was only, November, December. So it's only a few months after this. The next magazine mentioned RB as being in Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection.
And it talked about Nolan Bushnell as well.
And Nolan Bushnell is going into business. Meanwhile, here they are at the World of Congress robot event, acting and talking about like the future is here, and they were bankrupt in 2 months after this. Oh, what's it talking about here? He warned that hardware and software should not be developed in isolation. From there, he advised an approach similar to that of programming. Begin with the main task and split it into smaller, oh my God, and more detailed sections until the robot was seen being composed of many simple sections. My God, this is inside of our support section, almost word to word. I had Jeremy write that. Split up your robot program into smaller little goals. Once the robot was looked at as a group of sections, interchangeable parts could be developed, each section solving a particular problem. Yes! Robot skills. They could then be combined to form a variety of finished machines. Split the design work into 3 sections, electronic, mechanical, and software. As he thought that software was the area in which most difficulties would arise. Oh my God, this is the best. This is so exciting.
He went out of business. He had so much insight.
Because he had so much insight, but what he didn't have was the cooperation of the rest of the world. I mean, it's no different than what we're experiencing, right, with Cynthium. It's like there's still people downloading ROS right now. While we sit here right now, you can download Cynthium Arc and you can have robots navigating and doing all these crazy things. Or you can download ROS and have your robot sit there in a desk for a month, and then you can post videos of you trying to remote control it with a joystick, being all excited because you didn't sleep for 39 days while you wrote code for it. And then everyone from Homebrew Robotics is like, you're the best! It's not about writing the code, people. It's about what the robot does. If you want to be a programmer, make a website. Or an app. Make a TikTok. Then one could wander around the company's stands and see RBX5, Hero 1s, Topos, and Bobs at close quarters. There's a little dot here. You see that color? What is that? It's like embedded in the paper. Somebody's DNA.
Maybe it's like comics. It's just like a ink blot or whatever.
This is the best article I think we've seen yet. The most impressive, here we go, the most impressive show was on RB stand. There's 6 RBs were in action on raised plinths. I guess that's a raised plinth. Together with 2 RBs wandering about on the floor among the crowds. The machines were sensing obstacles with their ultrasonic and tactile sensors, saying, "Excuse me," turning away and wandering on. Okay, again, the beginning of the Roomba. For hobbyists and a limited budget, they were showing robot kits from a kitten to a simple vehicle is $200. The Rover robot with an arm and gripper, $500. All were radio controlled from a computer. A very simple vision system for $135 was demonstrated. I would like to see and get hold of one of these. I wonder if eBay, like with old computers, I wonder if people can get hold of them. I would find that very interesting to see what it would be like to work with an old vision system from 1983. Oh, home-built robots. Radio controlled from a handheld transmitter. So only looked like robots. Most were under computer control. That's great. I'm happy with this. This statement is super important right now because it's saying here that if they're radio controlled, so only looked like robots. They were not robots because they were controlled. Stop making controlled robots, people. Add some autonomous to it. There's that ZX81. Or no, it was called this ZX8, right? Or was it 81?
There was an 8 before, but I didn't notice. That was for the...
I think a ZX81 is...
track, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what a ZX81 is. A firefighting robot. Oh, it approaches infrared radiation and squirt water on it. It sounds gross. Not spray water, squirt water. It need an ogre on board too. Each of these 3 robots and others were built without machine shops or specialized tools. What could be easily achieved on a kitchen table. Yeah, that was a big deal in the 80s, eh? Didn't everyone build stuff in kitchen tables? Like that was your table for everything, your universal home table?
Yes.
I mean, I remember, yeah, like you do our homework on the kitchen table.
The large wooden, like, heavy
Table.
table.
Look at this thing. What is this? I have no idea what that is. Looks like a phone, what do you call it? Exchange relay box.
Yeah, that's weird.
One of the most fundamental difficulties with most mobile robots is they have no way of sensing the position of obstacles in their environment except by bumping into them. How awesome is that statement? 1984, 1983. Still problem today. The problem of not knowing what is there also faces arm robots, but in a more limited way. Humans and most animals have solved this problem by developing eyes. This project is simple, very low cost vision system. It's not true. Humans can use their arms without eyes. I think really what they're trying to say here is that humans and animals can project a simulation of the environment inside of our minds. We can a virtual environment inside of our minds, right? We create what we think the world looks like. And we take risk on knowing the probability that it's right or wrong. And we always have a backup plan for it being wrong. Unless, of course, you are somebody who is a stunt driver or some sort of stunt person for Red Bull, in which place you cannot have any doubt in your mind that you're wrong, so therefore you commit 100% into your projected reality, which is why you can achieve these amazing things. So the more the more connected you are to your belief of your interaction with reality, the higher level of outcome you'll have, but the higher risk you'll have. The more you doubt reality, your projected virtual, your reality in your mind, the less confidence you'll have, and the less risk you'll have. Right? You'll be more practicing safer. So robots essentially need the ability to do this. They need to be able to, and we kind of do that with SLAM. SLAM is the idea with navigation, is to try to have some sort of memory of what the world looks like, but it doesn't produce, and it has percentages of how confident it feels that objects are still there versus when they were there last, or if the object's moving. So it's a good approach, but it's not. There's pieces missing. I don't know what those pieces are, how to define them. It's probably more of a conversation for Geordie Rose or somebody.
They're trying to do stereo vision back then, trying to extract depth from two camera views.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I'm curious about this whole machine code routine. The camera system could be used on a BBC or C64, etc. I really want to know. I really want to find if anybody ever comes across a camera system like this old hardware from these old computers. I would love to. Look at that. So a row scanning servo fastens on this servo. Rolled paper. What? An iTube? Jerry, what is that all about? Oh no, we only have a couple pages left. Yeah, pan and tilt with an iTube. Oh look, there's your tube. There you go, Jer. Photo transistor glued in the tube. And you put the tubes on either side of the robot so it can see distance. Uses sticky foam pads here, fasten that in. And then number 4, here's your pan and tilt. Well, this is a photo transistor, so it's probably just light. So the darker the light is, it assumes that it's not. So if you're in a dark room to begin with, it will not work, yeah. And then here's your receivers, your photo transistors. And of course you want to hold them high. Here's your photo transistor there. Oh wait, these do look like infrared, don't they? Aren't most?
You can pick up infrared with photo transistors, but I wonder if they're just picking up light.
Yeah, because doesn't a regular photo transistor doesn't have polarity? Because they work like a resistor, don't they?
No, that's a CVS cell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Photo transistors operate like transistors.
Okay, so the base would be the light. Okay. And then you use a socket recommended for connecting peripherals. Oh yeah. Oh, here's your servo pulse. Look at that. Oh. Ooh, this is supposed to be at least 15. It's supposed to be 20 milliseconds. And this is supposed to be between 1 and 2, right? And then machine code to load the servo position. Load A for comparison. Oh, they're using a comparator to do the, that's awesome. Here's a paper tube information. Paper tubes. Yeah, that was your calculated delay. Electronic connections to the camera was made with 16 ribbon cable. They should be painted matte black all over to restrict light reflections. This is awesome. I mean, it's super high level, right? Like if somebody is building a robot from this information.
I can't believe this. They were doing this back in '84.
This is the same as what people are doing now.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And they're talking about buying servos from hobby shops, about the quote at the top. And like, you could do that back then. I wasn't even aware of that until I was like in my 20s.
Look at this. If a pulse length is 1 millisecond, the servo will go to one end of its travel. 2 milliseconds will cause it to the other. Simple as that. Like, very well said. So they wrote computer code already. So there's in the previous page here was the explanation of the timing circuit to do this driver. So that sits in memory someplace. So it sits in memory and it runs as a comparator. So it's running all the time, constantly. And then if you look at the code in here, what they'll do is they'll add the address every now and then to where the servo needs to, what the position of the servo needs to be. So they'll just do it from basic. So they can move the servo in basic. You'll never have a basic program run quick enough that you can do a I/O control. I didn't even think that your microcontroller can have that quick of an I/O, but I guess you could, eh? Because those microcontrollers had timers in them with comparators. You don't get that today with CPUs. That's why a Raspberry Pi can't control a servo.
Yeah, we're getting to the technical stuff at the back, right?
This is the technical stuff. Oh, this is neat. Okay, this is great. Look at this. The software causes the servos to scan a solid sector of 100 degrees by 100 degrees divided into 16 rows. Okay, so the servo is moving probably some sort of scan like this. And this is showing the data coming back from the sensors. And if you remove the zeros, this is what you get. Because these are the different distances it saw. So that's what you saw there. Well, sort of. I mean, I don't know if this doesn't look the same at all.
I wonder how fast their scanning was. Seems to be very slow. If you're having to do how many points? 100 times 116? Is that how many points?
Yeah, how fast was it? It's at 100 by 100 by 60. Yeah, so 100 by 100. No, that's right. Yeah, 16 rows by 116 columns. That's weird. How do you get 116 columns considering you only have 100 degrees to 100 degrees? Somehow they have some magical math in there somewhere. Must be missing something. Okay, so you have the servo connection. Camera connections. So it's not really a camera then, is it?
No. It's a photo transistor that they're calling a camera. But they're just getting light with.
Yeah.
And then they're assuming that when it's dark, there's an object there, right? Is that what the assumption is?
I think so, yeah. So when it's dark, there's an object? Or
Actually, they're full high, right? So when it's low.
Well, it says here, the light levels are represented in 16 levels. The values of IL and L be altered depending on the brightness of the scene under view. But levels of 255 and 255 are suitable for illumination from a table lamp. The brighter the scene, the lower the voltage input to the computer. Hence, L should be lowered. So I think they're saying the brighter it is.
It'll go low.
Yeah. Right, because it was held high.
Yeah.
Yeah. Machines fill public imagination. Hey, this is what's that movie? It was the very first mention of the robot. The word machine something, right? Machina? What was it called? Yeah, something like that, right? What was it? Did they mention it in here?
Not Ex Machina, but it was something about.
It was German. It was actually one of Metropolis. Metropolis. That's right. Roborad got it. Nice work, buddy. You know, I tried to watch this movie. I don't know how many times. I just couldn't get through it. The Day the Earth Stood Still. Gort.
I don't think I've ever gotten through a black and white movie before. Like all the way.
I think I like a lot of black and white sci-fi movies. A lot. Yes, it did. I will agree with that. So this is a really good reference. I think you're going to like these pages, guys, because there's a lot of references to some movies in here. Oh, what's this? What movie is this?
No, it's the Dewey robot from.
That's right.
I don't remember what it's called.
Wasn't it Black Hole?
Westworld? I'm reading the article.
No, Westworld. Westworld didn't have any robots that looked like robots, I don't think. They were just humans. It was just that guy with the weird makeup on. No, this was Black Hole, I think.
No.
Yeah.
No, Black Hole was that other robot.
Wasn't it?
Max.
Oh, Buck Rogers. Is it Buck Rogers?
I don't know.
Yeah. Type in Buck Rogers. Someone. Roborad. Let me know. Roborad will know. Man, there's every single sci-fi movie that I can think of that is good. Look, GOG is in here. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is truly amazing. The Forbidden Planet. Wow. Wow. I've seen, like, these are great movies. Invisible Boy.
You know what? This magazine makes me ashamed a little bit.
Because there's so many you don't know.
No, just that it's like talking about stuff we're talking about today.
Like solving the same problems.
Yeah, it's the same thing. We haven't really like made it further than this is. Well, maybe we have a little bit, but philosophically.
I don't know how many people are going to be mad at me for saying this, but I have zero care about Star Wars robots.
Ah, come on, not even R2D2.
I do not care about Star Wars. I did it because of other people. I think R2D2 is a neat robot to create, but the robot tended to agriculture. Okay, was it THX 1138? Was that this one? The agriculture one? Because I think you're right. I think it did tend to agriculture. Oh, man. I wonder if it says anything about that in here. Logan's Run. That's what it was. It was Logan's Run.
Oh, I thought it was Silent Running.
Oh, maybe it was. Oh, no. Which one was it then? Logan's Run or Silent Running?
Maybe it was both.
I don't know.
I don't know the movies.
Okay, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Colossus, The Forbin Project. I absolutely adore this movie. If you ever get a chance to watch this movie, I highly recommend it. It's a robot, it's a computer built in a mountain, and it gets connected to a Russian computer as well. And then they start talking to each other, and then they realize that humans try to kill each other. It's kind of like the War Games. Remember the movie War Games? Where he ruins the computer by telling... Roborad's got it. Silent Running. Nice. Good job. So the two computers talk to each other, but they take the world hostage. So the whole world is in like this weird communistic run by computers. And then the computers realize that humans will eventually destroy themselves, so they need to kill off all humans. Yeah, it's crazy.
Did you know that that Dewey robot was operated by a double amputee inside of it?
The Dewey robot of silent running had a double amputee. Somebody had no arms and no legs that was inside of it. Crazy. RoboRad says Silent Running was it, and Forbin Project was also cool. Cyclone voices were used.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to watch some of these movies from the past.
Yeah, we should make a habit of watching some of these. Oh, right.
That's the one I was thinking of. It was a play, not a movie. It was the R-U-R.
The Stepford Wives. Wasn't there a remake of that in like the 80s or 90s?
I believe so.
So there was an original in 1974. Huh. I didn't know that Future World was a sequel of Westworld. That's neat too. Man, I'm gonna watch every single movie listed in here in the next like month. This is great going through this. Yeah, RTD2, who cares? Oh yeah, it says right here. Scene from Silent Running, 1972.
Ah!
That's funny. If I am one thing, it is a man who accepts he does not know all. I only know what I know. And I will accept when I'm wrong. And when it comes to things like this, I am wrong often.
I watched The Black Hole so many times because it was on Disney.
I don't know if I liked the movie Black Hole that much.
It actually freaked me out.
Did it?
Yeah, when I was a kid.
The robots with no faces?
No, the Maximus robot was scary because it was going after the other robots.
So in the bridge of Black Hole, when they went to the bridge and all the robots had no faces, remember they come up and they turns the robot around and it's got a circuit board with all these LEDs. I used to have nightmares reoccurring of dreams where I would be running around in a spaceship trying to find the bridge, and every now and then a robot would see me, but not one of those type of robots, more like an R2-D2 type robot, sort of like a Dalek, bigger one, and it would aim and shoot and kill me. And then I would start over from the beginning again, like a video game. And then eventually I found the bridge, and I got to the bridge, and all of these people, which were actually robots, and I would walk up to them and they had no faces. And they were all just pushing buttons. And even talking about the dream is bringing it back, because I would have this recurring dream as a child. I must have been from watching Black Hole. Yeah, RoboRed says Black Hole's cheesy, and Jeremy said it's the scariest movie he's ever seen. So
I didn't say that.
Jeremy needs his blankie when he watches Cinderella, right before the pumpkin turns back into the mice.
I didn't like He-Man either when I was a kid.
He-Man scared you?
Like the live-action He-Man scared
There was a live-action He-Man? I didn't know there was a live-action He-Man. I've only ever seen the cartoon.
Oh yeah, it was okay.
I can't imagine live-action He-Man being very good.
Dolph Lundgren,
Oh my gosh.
or whatever his name is.
What about did you watch that movie, that one where the guy turned into a panther? Is it called like Panther Man or
Yeah, it was like the animal.
Manimal?
Was it?
Manimal. Yes, it was. It was Manimal. The $6 Million Man with androids had no face as well. Oh, I didn't know that. I don't think I've ever seen $6 Million Man. Was that a TV show or a movie? Do you know, Jared? Was it a movie or a TV show?
I don't know either.
The vision system for robots and automation. Here we go. Camera, software, program, and manuals contain course, image acquisition, and processing. It was a TV show, he says. Interesting. I'm going to see if I can find it on Netflix or something.
Oh, TV. $6 million TV show.
Check this out. A digital interface unit for the VIC 64 and a PET and the BBC. etc.
It's so weird that computers were so like
Connected.
connected to robots at the beginning.
It's a really good point, because when I first started with like Cynthium and the EZB concept, which was use the power of the computer because it's better than a microcontroller. But at the time when I created the first EZB and EZ Builder, everybody was on this like Arduino kick. Like they thought that they were going to make robots with Arduinos. That's right. I can't even say that without cracking up. They thought they were going to make robots with Arduinos that were going to be like the next best thing. And everyone would used to critique me and be like, "Oh, I don't want my robot to have to be connected to a computer." It's like, well, then I guess you don't want a robot, buddy.
They wanted to go as far as they could, and they ended up just getting as far as these guys did with a bump and go robot.
Well, it seems like they understood in this day of age in 1983. It seems like they understood you needed the computer for the robot. Like there was no substitution for having a robot and a computer just not included together. They had to be connected together. So it's neat that we went on a full cycle, right? We started off this way, and then we went to in the late 2000s or mid 2000s, we went to this like Arduino is the best, and now all of a sudden we're coming back from it. And you got these people who are being like, I thought of this first, right? Like, I'm a cloud robotics company, and you just shake your head. You're like, no, you're not.
The funny part was that
Look at this guy.
I started out on the Motorola HC11, which was the basis of older computers, right?
Oh yeah, that's true.
I started on a computer-ish, and then we started scaling down and going backwards to like lower amounts of RAM and stuff like that, and flash memory and stuff. And then computers are like escalating at Moore's law, where microcontrollers are just going steady.
It's true.
Really on that
Microcontrollers are going nowhere impressive. There's a dying market of microcontroller development boards. Like, why did Raspberry Pi release a microcontroller? What is wrong with you?
I think it's the price that they hope that it
Well, I think they realized that they can sell it in education. They were hoping that they can be like but the BBC Micro is, yeah, the microbit, BBC Microbit. Check this out. Electronics is replacing man's mind, just as steam replaced man's muscle.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that was Sir Clive said that. Clive Sinclair. The examples of robots in the production line had only slight intelligence compared to what's possible, the first glimpse of which could be seen in the development programs in Japan and the States. I don't agree with that. The simple microprocessor provides sufficient intelligence for current assembly line robots. I agree. As robots learn to see, feel, their brains will grow. No, that has to do with everything with programming. As robots are programmed to do these things, the brains will not grow. They'll just be required. Eventually, not too far in the future, will they make decisions in the production line, currently delegated to a supervisor? No. The base for, well, I mean, yeah, they're micro decisions for sure. And AI on computer software still requires human intervention because we don't trust it enough. But not so long ago, the human brain with its 10,000 cells, each with 1,000 connections, used to be considered dauntingly complex. Recent developments in microcontroller technology using silicon had meant that mimicking the brain was now more likely. He thinks that within 10 to 20 years, it will be possible to build something as complicated as the brain. The software to work that... When did Clive die? I wonder if he got to live 20 years after that comment to 2003. There he is, Sir Clive. I think it's certain that in decades, not centuries, machines of silicon will arise. You know, in a lot of ways, he's right. We definitely have a lot more, not robots, but we have a lot more AI. We have a lot more technology in our lives. I mean, it would have been possible for him to know that our phones and social media would be directing our personal decisions and personal lives, right? It'd be impossible for him to know that. So in a way, he's kind of correct, just off base of the physical medium.
Yeah, that's the weird thing is that really our computers and our phones are robots, just without a physical manipulator, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So we are there, but we just haven't like connected the two very well.
How cool is it? You can buy just an EEPROM programmer just for fun for £66. Make your own EEPROMs. And
Distraction.
how cool would that be? I mean, you can go online, you can download some or not online. You can go to a BBS, download some programs, burn them to some EEPROM chips. You never need to put a floppy drive in again, or a cassette disc.
Yeah, but if you want to change something, you gotta burn it again.
No, you just have a whole bunch of them.
Just switch them.
Yeah, I think they were cheap enough even then, if you bought them in bulk.
Oh no.
No?
Because they have their glass window, their specialty, and everything.
Oh, the EEPROMs were that expensive, eh? Oh, I didn't know that. I grew up around them. We always had them everywhere, but I never knew the price. How exciting is this?
Buy or rent a robot. It's a RAS, robot as a service.
Robot as a service. Find out how it can work for you. Contact us today. What's your email address? What's your website?
Future vision.
Just phone number and address. 65 Cambridge Road. I wonder if they existed. This robot is everywhere. The salad bowl thing. Check this out. The program was written as the basis of a room mapping exercise. Will run forward from the middle of the room until an obstacle is encountered. Its reaction is to back away from the obstacle, turn approximately 30 degrees right, and continue forward. After 5 impacts, right turns. The next impact will cause Hebot to rotate 30 degrees in the left 4 times. Wait, 30 degrees left, so you mean just 120 degrees? At that point, a pseudo conversation between the host computer and mobile takes place, and a summary of turns to date is displayed. The routines can be interspersed. I thought I was going to say I don't know what I thought I was going to say. The 4 variables would be read within the main loop and more intelligent decisions based on their running totals. Huh. Curious. Oh, wow. Look at this. Listings. Oh, this is the program that we just read about. I have no idea what kind of language this is. Is it some sort of version of Logo? I don't recall what Logo looked like. I don't think it looked like this.
Oh, duration, that's what it is. That's what's dir. It is English. I thought it was a different language for a second.
DIY Commodore. What is this? Stepper motors.
Wait till you get to the computer vision part.
1 photo transistor eye together with software algorithms for finding edges and hence the shape of an object. Did you ever make a scanner with one? So I used the analog input on a Apple II joystick port. Because Apple II used an analog joystick, where all the other ones like Commodore and everything were all digital. And we hooked up I don't think I used a photo transistor. I think I just used a CSD or an LSD, a light light sensitive diode, LSD.
It's LIR usually. Light interface or something resistor.
Yeah, it was a light resistor anyway. It would just change the resistance. So I had it hooked up to the analog input of the joystick port. And then the code, I wrote the code in, I think I originally wrote it in integer basic because I used to use integer all the time, and integer was really fast. And then eventually, one of the very first times I ever wrote anything in Monitor, which was the assembler for the Apple II, it was built in. It's called Monitor. Or it was also, someone else called it the WAS Monitor, I think he called it, because he made it. Anyway, long story short, is I can scan. Yeah, yeah. So what I would do is I had, I forget what I had it hooked up to. It was two pieces of, it was a string connected with two spools of thread that I used with, I can't remember what was in there. I think it was just two pieces of nail, that screw that held it in, and then I would slide the paper. So what I would do is it was the diode was on a string, and it would move back and forth on the string, but I'd have to move it by hand. So I'd move it by hand, and then one potentiometer was hooked up to the spool, so it knew how far you moved it, and then the other potentiometer was hooked up to the analog input was hooked up to the thing I sat in the paper, the photoresistor.
I remember the name now. It's LDR.
LDR. So I'd scan it. I'd drag the string across, and it would move, and then I would slide the piece of paper forward a little bit, and then slide it back, and slide the piece of paper forward a little bit, and slide it back. And I just kept doing this, and eventually you'd have a picture on it. Yeah, a grayscale image.
No way.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, on the Apple II. I came up with the idea from when I was told what a fax machine was when I was a kid. Yeah.
That's pretty genius.
Those are kind of fun stuff that people should still be doing as experiments these days. You know, that should be... Oh, there you go. There's your robot right there. Ooh, fourth dimension for the spectrum. Now your 16 to 48K spectrum get 12K of fourth from a cartridge. They really pushed forth as a language back then. Building a robot? Same marketing strategies, eh? Build a robot. Make a robot.
The clapper was my first robot sensor when I was 12.
Oh, yeah.
Large Grim Reaper that moved.
When he clapped his hands. Funny.
Must have been like a microphone. Is that what you mean? By the
Yeah,
clapper?
yeah, the clapper. Ogre.
There it is.
Whatever happened to Ogre? I wonder if you can get one.
What do you want it for?
So I have no more lonely nights. No more lonely nights. Well, that was a lot of fun. I'm not writing any code tonight because I was expecting to go through it a lot quicker, but I got to tell you, I really enjoyed going through that.
Yeah, me too.
There we go. More robot arms.
I think that's it for me. I'm going to call it a night.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm going to have to... Oh, it's neat that they have the descriptions like written down of what these different robots did, though, eh? So Hero Junior is fashioned visually on Hero 1, but it's for domestic and entertainment use. It can sing, recite poetry, follow human beings around, and wake up its owner in the morning. Battery life is 4 to 6 hours. So as long as you don't sleep for longer than 4 to 6 hours, the robot will wake you up.
It was interesting that I was watching a video about Conflicts, the guy, the YouTuber.
Yeah?
He was praising the Vector robot or whatever, the Cosmo robot.
Oh, God.
He's always been a fan of it, right?
Yeah.
He says that its most practical use was an alarm clock. Which is funny that the Hero, like way back in the 80s, was that's what.
That's a
they
good
said.
point.
Was a
So
good thing.
that's why Vector went out of business. The most practical thing was an alarm clock, considering So is his phone that he used to set. I bet you it takes more time to tell to configure the robot to be an alarm clock than it would just to set the clock on your fucking phone. Okay, I can't believe how many robot arms are in this for sale. Like there's more robot arms than anything. There's a whole page of just arms, and they just put this little robot here just to. Oh, and look at this Roomba. That's cool, and it's called a buggy. Interesting. Huh. Well, I am going to do some searches on the internets. Because, whoa, hold on here. What is this all about? Run more than 10 tasks on a ZX81? 300 times faster? What? Multitasking. Split window capability. You can edit a program while 3 or 4 others are executing tasks. 50 times a second to once a year. This is amazing. This is like more power than you can get out of most microcontrollers these days.
Something that you were talking about EEPROMs being awesome, and that's what it was. There's an EEPROM that you put in your.
You put the EEPROM in there? Yeah. Crazy. Well, I'm going to take some time this week and I'm going to scan these with this app I have on my phone and then publish them as PDFs on the website because I think people are going to want to check them out. What do you think?
Yeah, we should scan.
Well, there's so many names that popped up on while we were doing that. For computer vision for C64. And I don't know if I have to go through and find some of the names, but like I don't think I'm going to easily be able to just search and find computer vision for Commodore 64.
What's it called? Practical Robotics? Is that the name of the magazine?
It's called Practical Robotics, yeah.
Because there's a lot of practical robotics, like books, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find a magazine.
Commodore 64 camera? Like I'm gonna have to go through the books and find the different names of those products because I think it's going to be difficult to find. I don't know if anyone's going to even have one. But we could make one, right? I mean, what we know about the C64 is there an analog input? Yeah, the paddle has an analog input on the I/O as well in the back. So, or we could use the parallel port and just send the data quicker rather than doing analog. So we could read data from a camera into it. I'm sure someone's already done that though. Commodore 64 camera input.
Those magazines are special, DJ. I can't find any on eBay.
Jeremy can't find any article or any magazines you can buy from Practical Robotics.
One of a kind.
Well, thanks, Carl. Thank you very much, Carl. Carl, video feed, video in. I'm pretty grateful that his wife was able to spend the time with me. She told me a lot of great stories about him. Feels like I know him in person now. I've learned so much. I spent almost the whole day, just a half a day, hanging out with her. It was fun. Got to see his robots, and I got a bunch of them behind me here. So I don't know. She asked a few different things, like what would I want to do with them. My first idea was maybe donate them to some schools or something. But at the time, I thought maybe that they were more like easy robot type styles, but these things are home built DIY. I think if you gave these to somebody that didn't know what they were doing or learning, they'd get wrecked. So maybe I'll do some live hacks and maybe we'll bring them to life. Because one of the things she said to me was she'd like to see them being used. So if I have to keep their names. One is named K8, which is Kate, and the one is I forget, is it K10, which is Ken.
Nice.
Yeah,
Kate and Ken.
yeah, Kate and Ken. So those two robots, I'll have to. I mean, one of them has a Raspberry Pi in it, so I'm gonna have to swap that out with something that's a little bit more powerful. But I think they're neat. We can play with them one day.
That's funny. You can have the K9 between them. Neither the dog.
Oh yeah, Kate, K9, and K10. Kate. Cool. Okay. Well, I know I said I was going to write some code, so I'll edit the description of this live hack and just say what it actually truly was, because I didn't write any code because I had so much fun with these magazines. But we'll do that next time. I have on the Navigator, not the Navigator, the Intel RealSense, this one here. One of the items in the to-do list here. Let's see. Oh, I don't have a to-do list down here. Oh, it's not that. It would be the Navigator. That's correct. Anyway, we want to be able to... No, that's not in here either. It must be in the NMS. Anyway, it's someplace around here. There's a to-do item which we're gonna tackle, which is allow you to specify the Cartesian coordinate of where the robot is so that you can recorrect and realign itself. I think it's a risky thing to do, but I'm interested to see what kind of solutions that you guys come up with. I know that Nink had some ideas, so we'll see. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. But yeah, I don't know if anybody's even still sticking around. 3 people. Cool. Okay. Well, 3 people who are hardcore. Hardcore is me and Jeremy, who want to sit and watch.
There are people, robot people.
Robot people who want to watch me go through old magazines. All right. Everyone take care. And